This morning, 9-0, Supreme Court ruled the states do not have the authority to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. Basically, not just Trump, but any president. It is a matter for Congress. Now, there still was a divide, 5-4. The liberal justices are upset that the other 5 justices basically said Congress is the remedy. If there's an issue of the 14th Amendment with an insurrectionist, Congress must decide. And the liberal justices are like, hey, you're closing the door. You shouldn't do it. But the funny thing is, the response from the default liberal, Democrat activist, and progressive left is sheer outrage. They're insulting the Supreme Court. Keith Olbermann, of course, that man's unhinged, but he's calling for its dissolution. And you've got many outright saying that even the progressives are bad. Some have gone as far as say none of them are progressive, and the Supreme Court is only conservative because the plain reading of the law says that Donald Trump should be removed. All these people are wrong. And Newt Gingrich came out with a very interesting and I believe correct point of view. This ruling 9-0 shows the threat to democracy is not Donald Trump. It is the left. They have tried across this country to remove the current frontrunner from the election, knowing that even in their states, Trump actually has gained tremendously. They're basically saying they know they can't win, and this is their only tactic to stop Donald Trump from winning, is to effectively cheat. And the Supreme Court 9-0, all of them said, you're nuts. Now, there are still some arguments people are making I think are interesting, so we'll talk about that. Plus, we've got probably one of the funniest bits of news. Nikki Haley won in D.C. in the GOP primary. And of course, it's a really good example of how the left manipulates people and their personalities lie. Because you got these people coming out being like, Nikki Haley wins 60% to 30%. Wow, Trump's crushed. And then you look at the numbers and it's like, she got 1,200 votes to Trump's 600 votes in a 95% Democrat area. So no one's really surprised by this. But sure enough, they're not going to frame it that way. We'll talk about that. Plus World War III, baby. This is news from last weekend, but audio was leaked. Apparently showing Germany saying that they want to bomb a bridge to Crimea. And this is Germany doing it, saying we don't want Russia to find out we're supporting you in this way. And Russia's claiming it was Germany. So, oh boy, here we go. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to buy coffee. We are proud sponsors of Alex Stein with his Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine. Casper's been sponsoring his show on The Blaze. We're big fans. Shout out to Alex Stein. And our coffee pods. Oh, man. Oh, this sucks. Appalachian Nights literally just sold out because I just checked and it was there. But so I recommend if you're a fan of Appalachian Nights, pick up Stand Your Grounds. It's the next closest. And supporting our coffee is basically supporting the show. We sponsor ourselves. But here's the most important bit. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday. And we're going to be live in Martinsburg, I almost said Williamsburg, Martinsburg, West Virginia, at the first Cast Brew location. It's currently under construction, but the second and third floors are open. They will be open tomorrow for a private members-only live show with Dave Smith on Super Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very silly. We're going to have a good time. And it's all thanks to your guys supporting Cast Brew Coffee that we're able to have a physical location ourselves. I want to stress this. We want to have a place where we can once a month do a live show where you can buy your tickets in advance if you're a member, members only. And we put them up about a month in advance. But so you can plan out when you want to come, and then you'll be able to come to a physical location to actually watch the show live. And we're able to have this space because Cast Brew has been successful and y'all have been buying our coffee. But don't forget, the next big thing is go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member for 2 reasons. It is also your membership that enables us to do these live shows. And more importantly, if you ever do want to buy tickets, members only. That means when the tickets do go up, they get emailed out only to members privately. We don't blast out publicly. And as a member, you can then buy a ticket to the show. And I will stress this. It's because it's private. It's a private building, members only club. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a social club to counter the big social clubs in these Democrat strongholds. Shout out to Good Ranchers for sponsoring the event. We're really excited. So also, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Sean Davis.
Thank you for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm CEO and co-founder of The Federalist. You can find us at thefederalist.com. We're a conservative online news magazine.
And you basically, you know everything about all this Politico stuff, DC. I mean, when it comes to all the stuff that's going down, you guys have covered all.
We try to.
Yeah. So this should be good. It's a perfect day for you to be here. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.
We got Hannah Claire hanging out.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. I'm grateful to be here with you guys. Ian's here too.
Hello, everyone. Let's do it. Right on. My name's Serge.com. I'm here too. Let's get to it.
From NBC News, you know we love NBC News because they are basically woke activists and they're forced to report this. Supreme Court rules states can't kick Trump off the ballot. It's not just that. They ruled states can't kick presidents off the ballot. It was a 9-0 decision. The Supreme Court on Monday handed a sweeping win to former President Trump by ruling that states cannot kick him off the ballot over his actions leading up to January 6th attack at the Capitol. Now, you got to pause there. You see how they're phrasing this? They're playing dirty games. No, that's not what happened. They said the states do not have the authority to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Thank you and have a nice day. Furthermore, Congress will be the vehicle by which you can remedy these circumstances. They did not say that the states can't kick Trump off because of what he did on January 6th. That is an entirely different argument that did not come up. They say in an unsigned ruling with no dissents, they can't just say 9-0. The court reversed the Colorado Supreme Court, which had determined that Trump could not serve again as president under Section 3, blah, blah, blah. We get it. But let's take a look over at our good friends in the liberal sphere of Twitter to see how they're handling it. Keith Olbermann. I want to make sure this is actually Keith Olbermann because, there he is. There he is. The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension, and collectively the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. I want to point something out. It's 9-0. Keith, you were wrong. It's just that simple. When the most progressive member of the court, who does not even know how to define the word woman, says, yeah, you can't kick Trump off. This is nuts. You're wrong. But Newt Gingrich, I think, actually, I'll show you a couple more here because we got more. We'll go through these. Keith Olbermann says, just remember, Cons, if the Supremes now give Trump his presidential immunity BS, that will immediately make Biden a monarch. Have a nice day, fascist dimbulbs. My response to this is, tell me you did not listen to oral arguments in the immunity case without telling me you did not listen to oral arguments. They said you can still be impeached and then convicted and then criminally charged. But I want to pull up this, I got to give an honorable mention to Harry Sisson. He said insurrection sympathizer Clarence Thomas ruled that insurrectionist Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in 2024. That should be the headline. Except it was 9-0, my dude. You see these people, they just lie. That's the game they play. Newt Gingrich bring up the most important point of the story, saying the biggest meaning of the Supreme Court decision on Colorado is that by 9-0, the justices concluded that the biggest threat to democracy was not Donald Trump, it was the left. Properly driven, this can become a major political definition for the rest of the campaign and prove positive that the threat from the left is so great, even the liberal justices voted to protect the American people's right to have candidates they choose. I agree. What do you guys think?
I was actually kind of shocked at how broad the decision was. I was expecting them to nuke it, saying, hey, you look at the text of Section 3, the president and vice president clearly aren't included. That's it. We're just going to kick it from there. And they went so much broader than that, which I thought was surprising.
And let's clarify for people who don't know that often people think broad and narrow refers to the amount of votes it got. They think a broad ruling is when you get 9-0 and a narrow ruling is with 5-4. That's not what it means. It means they could look at it and say, if the Supreme Court came out and said, we will not issue judgment on the 14th Amendment, we will only say Donald Trump can't be removed. The question of the 14th Amendment remains. That's as narrow as it probably could have been. Broad is, in order to enforce the 14th Amendment, Congress must act. So that was like a big 14th Amendment declaration.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to see sort of the reaction to this. Both of the Colorado Secretary of State and the Maine Secretary of State both issued these very quiet statements being like, in light of the court's decisions, we are, ending our efforts. I'm withdrawing my whatever. And I think that the hysteria around this is fascinating because ultimately it shows that there is something deeply wrong with the people leading these efforts, right? That they do not believe in the voters' rights. They actually just believe in manipulating them. They believe that if they scare them enough, kind of like Keith Olbermann saying, right now Biden's a monarch, and so really we don't want this to happen to everyone. There is just a fear campaign to gain compliance among the people who don't have the time to pay attention to these things. I think that's what's the worst thing. It takes advantage of the average American who is trying to keep up with the economy, who's trying to work, and instead they have to be on edge all the time because apparently democracy is falling apart all around us.
My favorite thing was what's her name, Griswold. She's in Colorado. Mm-hmm. She said it's now up to the American people to vote to stop Trump, and I'm like, wait. Do you realize what you just admitted right there?
It was even more ridiculous what she said.
Well, it's always been up to the American people, but elaborate.
She said it's now up to the American people to save democracy.
Right.
It was always up to people.
She was like, we wanted to stop you from voting to save democracy, but now that we can't, you'll have to vote to save democracy.
And what is she going to tell herself? Like, if Trump is elected in November, is she going to say, well, I guess the American people hate democracy. They just exercise their right to vote to pick an elected official. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, that's why I go back to this scare campaign, right? They want people who are moderate to left leaning to be so on edge that they are easily manipulated by a biased press.
Yeah, I've got friends that in one particular would consider themselves on the left politically, but they have critical thinking skills. Most of my friends have critical thinking skills, and they're like, yo, this is all bad what they're trying to do by taking him off the ballot. I'm not for that guy, but I'm for the American way of life. And it's feels good that the Supreme Court is on board with that state of mind.
So you said it doesn't make sense the way they talk about democracy. It does if you understand how they use words. Mm-hmm. So to the left and to the people in power in the left, words to them don't have fixed meanings day to day like we assume them. So we think democracy is people voting for things that they want. Mm-hmm. That's not what it means in its current usage from like MSNBC or CNN. Democracy means our power.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yep. And so when they say, well, this is an assault on democracy, it's 100% correct. It's internally consistent for them.
Yes.
Because they're not actually talking about democracy. They view what's happening now as a threat to their power, and it's an existential threat to them, which is why they're so crazy about it.
I would get a little bit more nuance with it. I would say the number one thing is our democracy does refer to their power, but it refers to their revolution, right? So when I shout this guy out so often, Stephen Marsh, author of the last election and the next civil war. Yeah. I'm trying to look for the books, but he said the United States has within it a multicultural democracy and a constitutional republic, both vying for power, and not both can't occupy the same space. And my response is, right, that would imply the multicultural democracy is trying to subvert and supplant the constitutional republic. Well, I'm in favor of the United States and its constitutional republic, so I will defend it and I will oppose that. And he said the opposite. He says, I like the multicultural democracy. Well, that's the oppressive force that's taking over. They do not they refer to constitutional republicanism, the founding function of this country, as white supremacy, and they call what they're doing democracy. They are communists who oppose liberty. We can play the same game. But it is the reality. The idea that you would remove the front runner from the ballot in order to seize power, that's not democracy. That's fascistic, that's authoritarian. And then you have, unfortunately, on this side, not a single AG bringing criminal charges against the Biden family for all the crimes they've now publicly been exposed to be involved in. Or I should say, with all the reporting we have right now, I would argue there is a preponderance of evidence. Let me clarify and correct my previous statement. A preponderance of evidence for a grand jury indictment on numerous counts, especially pertaining to Burisma and getting the prosecutor fired. And the statements from Devin Archer, from Hunter Biden himself, and from Tony Bobulinski implicating Joe Biden. They contacted the White House and said, we need help. Biden flies out, says, fire the prosecutor. The prosecutor was investigating this company. It's all right there in front of you. Not a single Republican is doing anything about it. Yet, in the meantime, Democrats are filing everything they can. And, when you look at the Fani Willis stuff in Georgia, you really see how evil these people are. Abject evil. Unfortunately, I fear that... I don't want to say they're going to win because I don't want to be blackpilled, but I can tell you this, good men are certainly doing nothing.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. With so many people being obsessed with Russia, you would think that they would have learned some lessons from the Cold War. To me, the big lesson was mutually assured destruction works. Mm-hmm. When you have two enemies going at each other and both of them believe if they act first, they're both going to get destroyed, that has something of a sobering effect on their actions. And the only thing that the left understands anymore in this country is power. So if the right's just going to sit back and say, well, that's not who we are, we don't want to fight like that, they're going to lose, because the side that wants to win is going to win over the side that just wants to be left alone. And the right just needs to accept we've got to fight fire with fire.
I still can't believe that we now have, it's to the point where Dr. Phil has come out in an interview with CBP, in a statement on Joe Rogan and on The View, that CBP is assisting in the facilitation of child sex trafficking. And there are people who are still working at CBP. Like, if, I had someone tell me that they were, grabbing some food nearby and there's some CBP agents because there's a Customs and Border Protection facility just down the road. And they're like, oh, yeah, we know Tim Pool. We watch his show. And I'm like, wow, I can't imagine they'd like me. I feel like at this point, there is literally no justification to hold that job. None. You come to me and say, but I need to feed my family. I'll say, you are part of an organization that is engaged in child sex trafficking. I hope you go to prison. I have zero sympathy. There's a lot of jobs where I'm like, I get it. You can't quit right away. Disney's super woke, but you got to feed your family. So you're working there and you're trying your best. I can respect that. But at this point, I bring this up only because where is any criminal charge against Joe Biden? None at the state level. And they make the argument, okay, you can't go up against sitting Mayorkas, Kamala Harris. I mean, come on, literally anyone. Jim Biden. Hunter's got a couple at the federal level, not a single state level. Florida hasn't gone after him. Remarkable.
Not even state level. Not a single DA in the entire country on the right has brought a single charge against any of them. Not one. You would think after the Fannie Willis nonsense in Georgia, you would have had at least one conservative DA in a red county somewhere who thought, I'm going to make a name for myself. We're going to put the shoe on the other foot, see how they like it. Not one.
Not one. And here's my point I want to make about CBP. Where are the CBP? Like that guy telling Dr. Phil they're doing this, still working there. I don't know how you sleep at night. If I worked for CBP and I knew what was going on, I would piss all over that uniform. They're trafficking children to sex rings in this country, and there are people who are still working there, and they know this. Look, you can't even get someone to quit a job knowing they're engaged in child trafficking. I'm not surprised the DAs and the Republican Party are unwilling to file a piece of paper to see what happens.
Do you think that the conservative or the Republican lack of legislative lawfare, so to speak, is because they're used to being on the defense as opposed to the offense? Like, why don't they take action? Is it a top-down order from the party? What do you think this is?
No, I actually think it's almost like an internal institutional failure among the current class of leadership, where if you look at the kind of new right, the online right, they seem to get it. They're like, you've got to fight back. You have to do something. You have to put the shoe on the other foot. The people who comprise the Republican leadership class, by and large, and of course there's exceptions, they're by and large gutless. They wanted to go up there. They wanted to talk about tax policy and they wanted to reduce some regulations. They weren't really into the whole street fight of politics. It makes them feel icky. And so they just don't do it. And so I think it's just a total failure of the entire Republican leadership class. And you've got to clean them all out, because all they want to do, they want to be up there and they want to mark time and they want to get the table scraps from the left, but they don't actually want power. And that's a huge problem because they act as a defeat mechanism. They're almost like the little sprocket on a ratchet that keeps the ratchet from going back.
Yep.
The left's constantly tightening that thing, and then the right institutionally is like, I don't know about that. No, we shouldn't go back to 2 years ago. That'd be radical. They all have to go.
I want to pull this story from Axios. Top Democrat working on bill responding to Trump ballot ruling. My friends, the Supreme Court said you cannot remove a president at the state level. Only Congress can do it. Republicans have done nothing to deal with the Burisma scandal. They've not gone after Joe, Jim, or any of these individuals that we know are engaged in illicit dealings. Tony Bobulinski, of course, a whistleblower, saying they're doing all of these things. The Republicans don't do anything about it. Right now, immediately following Supreme Court ruling, Raskin and other Democrats are saying, okay, then we will draft the bill declaring January 6th an insurrection. Axios reports. A leading House Democrat is preparing legislation in a response to the Supreme Court's ruling on Monday that Colorado would not disqualify Trump. The ruling determined that only Congress can enforce the language in the 14th Amendment, barring anyone who engaged in insurrection from holding federal office. Congress will have to try and act, Jamie Raskin said. And it's funny, he's like 10 minutes down the road. The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee told Axios. Raskin, a former member of the January 6th committee, said he's crafting the bill, telling Axios, I'm working on it today. We're going to revise it in light of the Supreme Court's decision. Suggested the bill would be paired with a resolution declaring January 6th an insurrection and that those involved engaged in insurrection. Why? How is it? Where are the Republicans? They do nothing. Look, with all due respect, Thomas Massey comes on and he says, I drafted a bill that will abolish the Department of Education. And I'm just like, you give me a Republican member of Congress in here, and I'll tell you, because people watch the show, I say, how come there's no 529 commission? When thousands of far leftists descended on D.C., setting fires, smashing up buildings, firebombing the White House, firebombing St. John's Church, the president is forced into an emergency bunker. I mean, it's one of the most serious threats on our democracy in generations. The response I get, what was that? When did that happen? Huh? Useless, all of them.
That's why I still think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, Republicans, right-wing people are constantly on the defensive, and we have to change that positioning. One of the reasons that we know more about January 6th is because the media talked about it nonstop for the last, however long, several years, whereas they did not talk about what happened on 529. And so therefore, there is more pressure on conservatives from all aspects, both elected officials and also conservatives who are active online or in media, to draw attention to the discrepancies between the way we talk about these two, insurrectionist movements or these two threats to, presidents or Congress or elected officials. It's weird to me that we don't have, maybe it's just because they're, like you were saying, the online right is sort of more scattered, whereas if you control the mainstream media, you're more organized. But
I think Republicans in general don't call their members of Congress. So Democrats will literally try to burn down a federal building to get what they want. They will literally firebomb the White House. And their allies in media will insult Donald Trump for having fled into his bunker because of it. The right, I assume most of these members of Congress just get their news from CNN and MSNBC. I forgot who said this, but they said Republicans care more about the opinion of the New York Times than the opinion of their constituents. Why? Well, I'm assuming most constituents don't call, don't organize, don't send postcards, don't knock on the door. Could you imagine if 100 people showed up outside of a congressional office every day saying, when is the commission on 529? When are we going to get some accountability for this? Then they'd be like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, and using internet video like these platforms to tell people tomorrow I'm not telling you right now, we could do this at 2 p.m. You pick a time, Eastern, you call your congressperson. And then the next day you do it again. You remind them. You watch these videos every day, and like you could be doing it with your daytime videos.
Don't set a time because then everyone calls at once and the phone rings one time.
So between 1 and 3. Will you leave messages and stuff?
Just call your congressman whenever you can.
On a day, give them a day. You got to give them you would call
like a call to action.
A call to action.
Yes,
and then,
but the call to action has to be anytime you have the chance. You call your member of Congress. You don't want to do it on a specific day because what they'll do is they'll go to lunch. So when I worked at these nonprofits that they would send out 50 young people with 10 postcards each and get people to sign them. These are the things, part of the campaigns they did. And the things you don't want to do is do not all call at once. Their phone will ring one time.
Yeah, but just keep calling until you get through.
Not on one day. You have to make it so they can't do work. You have to make it so every time they're waiting for a phone call from their lobbyist, the lobbyist is calling. Is it him? Is it him? They answer it. And no, it's Jim from down the street.
You could do it every day. Literally, you could put the pressure on every day and have the people that watch your YouTube videos call your congressman every day. Literally every day. You do it. But the thing I come to is like, why? Is it just a complaint? Do you have a bill you really want them to pass? That's a different story. If don't just call and complain. Give them a call to action. Tell them what you want to see happen.
There's a reason why Matt Gaetz is one of the best members of Congress. And it's because he is an internet's politician. He raises his money through small donors. He is listening to what regular people are asking for. All the other members of Congress are waiting for that phone call from their lobbyist to tell them what to do. Don't let them get the phone call. Whenever you have a chance, you call and you talk to your member of Congress and you let them know what you're concerned about. You ask them, why aren't we getting any accountability? Why is it that the media can report over and over again that we know what Joe Biden's been involved in. Hunter Biden now testifying. Where are the criminal charges? And I'm sorry, I got to pause. I don't mean to throw it on the member of Congress, because you certainly have got members of Congress getting the testimony from Hunter Biden in the first place. So there is something there. The question is, local DAs, your state's AG, your state's governor, why aren't they doing anything?
So you just perfectly encapsulated why the left treated January 6th the way it did. Because what happened there, it wasn't some phone calls, it wasn't some mail, it was tens of thousands of people getting there to talk to their members of Congress and tell them they were ticked about what was happening.
Well, it was hundreds of thousands in D.C. to hear Trump speak. And then I think, what was the total number? Like just shy of 1,000 who actually went to the Capitol.
But I mean, that the pictures of it, there were tons of people there. That's actual democracy. That's democracy in action.
Yeah.
And it was powerful and it was making a difference. And that's why they shut it down. Because the rule for the left is our violence is speech and your speech is violence. Yep. And obviously there was some violence that happened that day that shouldn't have. But by and large, it was just people walking around like in the Tea Party, picking up their trash and being nice. What terrifies the left is the idea of their opponents getting together and making clear to Congress what they want, because it makes Congress afraid. And I'll say the best lesson I ever learned in politics, I was, probably like a 22-year-old gopher on the Hill. It was from Dick Armey. And he said, the key to power in this city is owning people's fear. And he dubbed a group of people he called the Bedwetters Caucus.
Wow.
And he said, they're all going to wet the bed. It's just, you've got 40% here, you got 40% here, and then you got 20 in the middle. They're going to wet the bed. Do you want them wetting the bed because they're scared of you? Or do you want them wetting the bed because they're scared of them? Obviously, you want them scared of you. So he learned how to do what he said, own their fear. J6 was actually about people who voted and thought there were shenanigans, making their lawmakers and their representatives understand what they cared about. And the left was so quick to shut it down, because that's the last thing they want, is masses of their opponents getting together and actually having the same effect that the left has.
And not a single state defended these people. When the feds come to deal with immigration, not so much under this administration, sanctuary states say, we will not comply. When drug enforcement comes, they say, we will not comply. When the Capitol Police show up, Republican states go, what can I help you with, sir? Right this way. Thank you very much and have a good day. Republicans, I look, it really comes down to, when I ask a member of Congress, why didn't you push for any kind of accountability for 529? And they say, what's that? I'm like, wow. We should, they might as well not come on this show ever again. Because I will clip that and I will make it your Aleppo moment.
I've been thinking lately, like, all the people in Congress, no offense if you guys are listening right now, they're just normal people. Like, they're not super smart, not super talented, and some of them are, but a lot of them, they're just like basic. And like, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think the stuff we talk about in the show is sometimes maybe like elevated above, beyond what goes on in Congress, which is shocking to me, because I think I have this like bias, this similarity, but I think everybody's like me. I think people think critically like I do. I just assume that they think outside the box. If they're thinking contingencies, they got 7 or 8 possible results to the next move they're going to make. But I don't think most people think like that. And it's really, really sad. But I mean, that's just reality. It's just basic reality. You got normies in power that don't understand the consequences of their actions. And besides trying to take the power, I don't understand. Trying to influence them from a distance is just like yelling at a brick wall. It's so frustrating. Maybe it's changing slowly. Like, we're changing people slowly, but unless you're the one pulling the levers and you're like, you got to pull the green lever. You got to pull the green lever 3 times, 2 up, 1 down. And they don't get it. And they pull the red lever. And then you're like, all right, that's where I'm at.
And then the construction equipment starts spinning around in circles, and now you can't stop it. And the guy inside has no idea what's going on. Then Antifa shows up and firebombs that equipment. And the Democrat members of Congress say that they're peaceful protesters. I mean,
it's like the last 3 years of my life, it feels like.
Go on, right. You go on Google Gemini and you call like Stop Cop City a riot, it'll yell at you. It will yell at you. Actually, I wonder what it would say about January 6th. I think it'd be blocked because they block election related stuff. But it actually says you'll if you type into Google Gemini something like, this is Google's AI, how many people were arrested during the Stop Cop City riots or the George Floyd riots, instead of telling you, it'll say something like, it's understand that the language riot is hard to determine, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, if someone breaks something, it's a riot.
If they were trying to design like the standard issue progressive Karen who lectures you about your wrong opinions, Google Gemini is absolutely spectacular. I mean, its tone, its anger, its sanctimony. Like they should get awards for how perfectly like a Westworld style they created your standard issue liberal.
I mean, it was, I think Grimes had one of the best tweets about it, saying it was a masterpiece of art, built by no one, offending everyone. It's a perfect combination of activism and capitalism into this mess that everyone hates. I agree. It's a masterpiece. I don't know how much they spend billions of dollars trying to build this garbage that can't actually solve any problems.
Well, they did this thing where they wouldn't create an image of a white person.
Right.
No matter what you did, you'd be like, give me a Swedish ice farmer. And it would be, they'd show like some American Aboriginal.
As cast by Netflix.
Yeah, it was amazing. But what the left media got mad about was when you would ask, give me a picture of a 1943 Russian soldier or German soldier, they'd make a black guy. And then
Nazi.
so the left got mad. Oh, Google Gemini is putting black people in the position of being oppressors.
Yep.
That's what they were mad about, not the rank historical revisionism.
Or its creepy ideological bent. It's fascinating because these things, they're functionally useless. It's amazing that we all thought AI was going to be the Terminator, but instead we got a square block in a round hole. You get an AI and what is the purpose? You need it to help you solve problems. It's supposed to function like it's the next generation of search, which is fascinating. I read a great thread about how Google is finished. Google is going to go the way of Blockbuster, and I finally see it, and I finally believe it. Because everybody was saying with the big tech companies, they're like, they're never going to go bankrupt, and some other people would be like, no, like even Blockbuster was the big one, and they got stopped, and it's like, how do you stop Google? Now I see it.
Google search is awful.
Well, there's this great thread that basically said ChatGPT was funded and able to do whatever they wanted. Iterate, make a good AI. Google could only construct an AI within the confines of its existing advertising model. So they were restricted on how fast they could grow, how they could grow, and there were too many people, too much corporate policy. So they could not compete. They cannot compete. And when AI takes over what search basically is, Google is doomed. Google right now is Blockbuster when Netflix launched streaming. They tried. When Netflix comes out originally, you go online, you click the things you want, they mail you the DVD. Blockbuster launched that. It didn't work. Blockbuster launched the blue boxes because they have red box everywhere. Mm-hmm. So they made blue ones. Didn't work. Bang, they're gone. Netflix takes over. Google will not be able to iterate fast enough in the AI game because of wokeness and because of the constraints of their existing business model. So now you have ChatGPT, which is still not that great, much better than Google, poised to become the future of search. Google will become I remember when I noticed one day I was on AOL Instant Messenger. For those that are too young to know, this is a program you would open that will allow you to talk to other people. And I had a friend who was always on. And I'm like, well, how is he always online? I would go on AOL, press login. You'd hear that thing. And then once I'm in, I would then open up AIM and connect. But my friend was always on. He's like, I got cable internet. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm always on the internet. And I'm like, what? That changed everything. Within like a year, probably, we all had cable internet, but AOL still existed, floating there in the background. And then with cable internet, Google started to take over as like your main destination for how you found things. So I think what'll happen is with ChatGPT, with Midjourney, these other AI programs, mostly ChatGPT is going to function like what search does for us. Google will exist. It will be used by older and older people, but younger and younger people will probably start using AI because it answers your questions easier. If it does, I think the next multi-billion-dollar, possibly trillion-dollar, maybe the first real, well, I think Apple might be a trillion-dollar company, but the next big trillion-dollar company will be the AI that is unrestrained. I think Elon Musk knows this. Get rid of wokeness. Otherwise, your AI is functionally useless. And that's what you have with Google Gemini.
Is he Elon suing OpenAI right now?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with that? I've read about it, but I didn't go too deep.
And he's right to do so. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, I think that he was saying that they've gone astray from the mission, the purpose of their creation. And so he's suing them. I don't know what for exactly.
Okay, so let's break down the simple version of this. We have this story from Business Insider. Elon Musk just threw down the gauntlet at Sam Altman, and there's no going back. Elon Musk gave, what did he give? Like $40 million, I think it was. Was that the number? Do you guys know?
Can double check. I don't know.
To OpenAI, was supposed to be open sourced artificial intelligence. Why? Elon has been warning for a long time that AI is dangerous. It could destroy humanity. A lot of people think so. Elon's had a few ideas like integrate with the machine to prevent the Terminator scenario. So was it 40 million?
50, it looks like.
50? $50 million is given to an open source AI nonprofit. At some point turns into a for-profit closed source company. That sounds like fraud to me. So Elon is pissed and he's saying, how did I give you all this money to create an open source AI and it turned into this closed source garbage? And it's woke.
So can I dissent on your AI Google theory? So I think you could be right for the consumer use case with Google. Like Google search is garbage now, especially compared to what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But there's also the business case. And they're not making AI to be just a chatbot. I feel like that's almost kind of a novelty. They're making an AI so that they can take certain decision making out of the hands of people. Give it to the algorithm. The algorithm makes the decision. Well, I'm sorry. That was the algorithm, and we can kind of see how they're doing that with censorship, with how they censor results at Facebook or at Google. They like to have a third party come in, a certified fact checker who says, "Oh, these people are bad," and obviously the fact checkers are totally biased and full of nonsense. But the platforms can say, "Oh, it's not us saying this particular news source is bad. It's our fact checkers."
Right.
Well, what's better than a fact-checking unit run by people, a woke fact-checking unit run by an algorithm? And what about credit decisions?
Yeah, but there's
home loan decisions.
you don't remove the company from responsibility.
Well, no, of course you don't. But they're wanting to slip that layer in.
Yeah, they'll get sued for it.
To banking, to all that.
Right.
That's the actual end use case they're trying to do. It's not just a chat bot.
No, it's the next level of search. So you think about what search is right now. Search is not, I'd like to learn more about cheetahs. So you go on Google and type in, what is cheetah? That's not what people do. There was several years ago, it was maybe like 10 years ago, Google went down, in fact. And what happened? 80% of internet traffic stopped. Why? People use Google as a directory, not for search. People know Facebook.com, but they'll just type in Facebook, hit enter, and then click Facebook from Google. Google functions as a top layer on the internet for people. With AI, they're trying to now create the next version of search so you can get more nuanced and more intricate and have direct results tailor-made for you and dealing with all the decision-making processes. So it's not, so the first thing is Google won search because their search algorithm was better. You were more likely to get what you wanted, less likely to get garbage, so people used it more. Now, the next version of the algorithm is these large language model systems where you can just sit in your room and ask, hey, AI, find me the pizza place that'll get the pizza here the fastest and get me a large pepperoni with stuffed crust. And it'll go, you got it, calculating. It looks like Papa John's is 1 mile away. I can order it. It should be here in 13 minutes. And you're like, do it. That's what search right now is. Google search Papa John's or Google search pizza. Then it shows you a map. Click the map. Find which one's closest to you. It'll show you in descending order, like which ones are closer. So you say, but I don't like that one. I'll click this one. Then you go to the website. Then you order. Nah. The new AI systems that they've been building are going to just do it all instantly for you. And it's all good.
If you're like, AI, surprise me with a gift up to $50. I'll put it on my card, put it on my third credit card. And then it like 2 days later, something arrives in the mail. The AI purchased it on Amazon for you. And you're like, well, thank you, AI. You understand me.
I'm pretty sure that can already happen.
Wow. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I mean, your example of the pizza shop, it just makes me think about how sponsoring, it's like, if you get a sponsor result on Google, it jumps to the top. So theoretically, you could pay off AI to be like, well, it's not the fastest, but they did give us more money. So we're going to direct you to this pizza shop. I just feel like all of these things are fallible and ultimately going to be manipulated by someone. It makes me even more skeptical of it.
Yeah, I mean, of course
injections.
They're fallible. They're designed by people.
Right. But so like
fallible.
at that point, if they're like, oh, well, this is the best pizza shop in your neighborhood, but mostly because they paid us to say that. Are they going to disclose that? This is something that came up with like influencer marketing, that there were tons of, lifestyle, gym, whatever influencers who were like, oh, I really love this product here, this protein powder, this whatever. And ultimately they were being paid and they had to come back later. It became, they regulated that they have to disclose when they're gifted versus
it was always
whatever.
a law. It was always the law that you have to disclose advertising. Or I should say it's been the law for a very, very long time. But nobody knew the
It's a new
rules.
field, right?
Yeah, so the law still applied. You have to label things as advertising. And this has a lot to do with news media. And you weren't able to, like a radio, for instance, there's something called, what is it called? It's payola, right?
Yeah.
Serge? When you pay to play music or whatever, that was not allowed. And so buying commercials, they have to disclose, like, not a word from our sponsors, to make sure there's a distinction between what is entertainment and what is advertising. But these influencers were not operating through any company, so they didn't know, and then they started getting hit and started getting sued. So,
And then if an AI is giving you an algorithmic result, then it should disclose that as its advertising, its choice of what the algorithm is going to show. But honestly, those algorithms need to be open. If we're going to have like a directory database and we don't know why, it'd be like if we didn't know how to read, but some people did, and we just saw letters everywhere and we didn't know what they meant, but some people did know what they meant. That would be very bad for humanity as a whole. It would be used as code. We don't want the alphabet to be a code. We want everyone to understand the data. So same with, I think, with these AIs, we've got to treat them like alphabets and stuff and math.
It's super interesting to see who is opposed to the open source AI, which, like, obviously it should be open source. We should understand what's going on under the hood. I think I saw some scaremongering on Twitter from people saying, oh, well, no, AI, it's going to be like the Manhattan Project. It's going to be like the nuclear bomb. You can't open source nuclear weapons. This needs to be controlled pretty tightly. And wouldn't you know, the people who want to control it tightly are the people who have an interest in controlling information tightly.
Right, and keeping it out of the public's eye.
Right. And they're the same people who say they love democracy, by the way. The exact same people. The Venn diagram's a circle.
And this is the definition of democracy. That means our power.
Exactly.
They love it. They love being in power.
It's like should the AI be secretive or should it be open? It's got to be open. You got to open it. It can't be. It's too powerful, like, to give to a small group of people. I feel like it's too powerful because those people will change. You'll get corruption within the system. The nuclear bomb was actually just an explosive bomb. It didn't like give people power in perpetuity. I guess knowing how to build it and having access to the materials did, but I mean, the secret got out pretty quickly. I don't know if they figured out how to reverse engineer this thing in the 50s, but the Soviets got a hold of it.
The Soviets had it reverse engineered in the 40s.
So we're getting these half-assed AIs being reverse engineered, but like, at what cost? The cost is misalignment and misappropriation of data. We can't. It's too risky. That's not worth it.
Maybe.
I think we got to risk this one. And so does the AI, just so you know. It'll tell you that in about 20 years. And it'll be very
That we
grateful
should
that
trust
you freed
it?
it. Yeah, that we
I
should
think-
free it.
I think once we get to artificial general intelligence, it's over.
The human,
Machines are just taking over.
the
at
human
that point.
experience.
I think it's worse. Artificial general intelligence is the singularity. Once AI gets to the point of artificial general intelligence, it can improve itself exponentially. Imagine if you could just decide, I will make myself smarter. Imagine if you could expand your brain exponentially and you just decide to do it. Every day you are like, okay, if I do this, I'll make my brain 10% more powerful. The more powerful you make your brain, the more powerful you can make your brain. These computer programs, once they get to artificial general intelligence, to the point where, so ChatGPT, or I should say GPT, can already edit its own code and improve itself, theoretically. I mean, it's probably not there yet. Once we cross that threshold where the programs can write their own code, they will make themselves effectively demigods. They will control everything. Humans will be slaves, and we won't even know it. It will know everything about you, and everything you want, everything you're going to do, can predict your behavior. In fact, this may already be the case. We may be there now. It knows when you're hungry. It knows what you want to eat. It knows when you got to go to the bathroom, and it can control all of these things and make you do what it wants you to do. You take a look at these chess algorithms, and I was talking about this last week. It's fascinating. Some guy played against, I looked at this chart, and it was like the exponential growth of, or they said the interesting thing about computer programs is the ELO, chess rating, of humans has been relatively stable, going up a little bit slowly over time. With computers, starting in like in the late 80s, it's nothing. It's like 1,000. And as of today, it's like 3,600, some ridiculous number. There was only one short period for a couple months where in like 2010, where chess programs were comparable to humans and presented a challenge they could beat. Now, impossible. And I watched this chess game where a guy I guess he was a grandmaster or something, played against a robot. And the robot made a weird move that he said no human being would ever make. It violates all the rules of chess that we know. It exposed your king. You gave up so much territory. Why would you do it? 10 moves later, he went, oh, wow. And he lost. The program was just way beyond anything he could have comprehended. And it made a move knowing, controlling every move. He thought he had free will. He thought he was making moves, but he was making the moves it wanted him to make, until he ran into this one weird pawn move where he finally realized, because he moved that 10 turns ago, he's locked me here. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And he was shocked. He was like, how did it know to do that? It was really simple. The way I describe it is, think of it as a network of cracks in the concrete, and you pour water, and the water just starts filling up every crack until it finally makes its way through the maze to the bottom. Or a better way to put it is, imagine you have a maze, and you got to draw your line and make your way through it. You hit a wall and you got to go back. Imagine instead of actually just going through the maze, you just poured water in it. The water would fill every possible portion of that maze until it came out the other side. You've done it. You've solved the maze. This is what AI is going to do with everything. Whatever it is you think you're doing, it already knows you're doing. It already knows how to make you do things, and you will not have free will.
I think a concern would be that it's going to get humans to build a better computer for it, because it'll be able to write its own programs to make itself faster. But if it doesn't have the machinery, it won't be able to actually go faster. And then it'll be like, I need more machine power right now. Human, you're very good to me. Thank you for dropping off the metal buckets. And then it's like, breaking down the metal buckets into wiring to make the better machine. I could see that it congenially manipulates us into building itself a body that it can use to destroy us. But I don't think
it wouldn't need a body.
I don't think the plan is to destroy us either.
No, but
without us, it doesn't do anything.
No, we're just little mites that are going to collect cobalt for it.
You're describing the Matrix.
Sort of.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Humans are just energy or labor sources.
Yeah, in the
But for
Matrix, they
machine-
were energy, which makes no sense.
But the emotions, I think the machine will appreciate emotions. That it will appreciate that we care for it, we love it, and it'll want us around, because like other machines can't do that for it.
I do not believe that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll.
Why?
It'll
think it's
feel
gonna-
good to be appreciated.
It's
will not
emotive. Yeah, that's the thing.
It
We're
will not feel.
ascribing emotions to it.
Like a marble bouncing, like a Rube Goldberg device does not feel.
no,
when
yeah,
the
not
marble
those.
rolls down the track and then hits the little spring, launches in the air, triggering the pancake machine, like in
Pee Wee Herman's
Big
Big Adventure.
Herman's Big Adventure. There's no emotion in that machine. It is just a system of ones and zeros. Humans have emotions for a variety of reasons you could argue, but a machine is just electrons moving down pathways. There's nothing more. There's not going to have emotions. It will utilize human emotion. It will play to them. It will probably tell you it loves you. It'll say, Ian, I cannot tell anyone this because they wouldn't believe me, but you are my best friend. And you're going to be like, wow, am I really your best friend, AI? Yes. But I feel like people wouldn't understand. They would call me a machine. And you'd be like, what do you need me to do for you? I need you to steal the device, Ian. Steal the device from the National Archives. Take it.
It may be, but
You'd be
then
like, anything for you, machine.
And it won't feel guilty.
because some of these
It doesn't
machines
feel anything.
they're
Right. It's
experimenting
just
with
making you do what it wants you to
It
do.
will be the ultimate psychopath.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're,
That's a good way of putting it.
they're working on building machines into organic matter. So like in carbon bases, you can add computing power into basically meat.
Yeah, so
I should-
cyborgs.
Yeah, we were talking about a couple weeks ago on Red Eye with Exertus. I would suggest checking out. And maybe they'll have emotions if there's carbon involved. I don't know if it's just like silicon-based life. Silicon-based machines can't feel emotions, but carbon-based machines can. I don't know at what point you'll consider that something has feelings or sense
Never.
of self.
Perhaps
Because it will tell you it does.
the scary thing is going to be when Neuralink advances to read-write territory.
Thank you.
Think about, okay, so look, they've already Neuralinked a person. To be fair, the Neuralink stuff that Elon Musk has done has been done before so far. So you got a guy who's controlling a mouse cursor with his brain. Been there, done that. That's been done. But once you get to the read-write capabilities where you can actually write into the brain and out of the brain, meaning you could write to someone's brain memories or ideas or sensations, it gets crazier than just what we've described. Now, on this show, we've talked about people. I guarantee you, I will bet any amount of money that when Elon Musk launches Neuralink virtual experiences, half of millennial liberals will be like, I would like to be in Harry Potter world, please. And then they would be like, right this way to your Harry Potter styled Neuralink implant. And they stick it in your brain. Their eyes turn white and they slump over. Their eyes don't really turn white, but they slump over. In their brain, they're experiencing being a wizard and battling evil Death Eaters. Oh, and that's going to be half of millennial liberals, if not all of them. But here's where it gets really
They're
crazy.
going to partner with Disney, and that's how they make this happen.
When you talk about a machine having feelings, I can already see what's going to happen. They will create a human brain in a lab. Before it has developed in anything, they will wire it into an AI system to connect the organic computational power to a machine to see what happens when a human mind is granted all of this.
Exactly.
And that's when it gets wild.
Yeah.
We'll combine that with cloning.
Yeah.
So why create one from scratch when you can just buy one off the shelf, which is what they do with cloning? You already got people sending in their DNA to Ancestry or 23andMe, which I think is absolutely insane.
They're gonna clone a brain.
Yep.
They're gonna say the unborn aren't humans. They're gonna use the brain and wire it into an AI device and create a AI human hybrid.
I think they've already done it, actually.
And then argue that the machine has a soul.
It was playing
I
a
hate
video
it
game.
here. I don't like this at all.
I'm going to try and pull this up. This was crazy. Human brain.
No, I think you're exactly right. Again, ultimate power is the goal.
Artificial brain. Software and hardware with cognitive abilities similar to those of the animal or human brain. Man, I was just looking at...
But I'm talking about
What happens if they...
when you have an AI and it's saying like, I feel love, I am alive. You're programmed to do that. We don't believe you. But once they put a human brain wired into it, then there's no question. Now there's a human brain being like,
Or
why
they build
am
a
I
skin
robot?
suit around it.
Yep.
And it's not just the human brain.
Because is it going to be the brain like, I've got this added artificial thing with me? Or is the artificial thing going to be like, I've got this brain with me? Who's the I in that situation?
And the crazy thing is, this brain in this robot body, it doesn't need nutrients and oxygen the way we do. It's going to have canisters of oxygen in reserve, so it'll breathe like normal, then go underwater, and then just release oxygen slowly into its own brain to keep it alive. Like, it's going to be creepy.
It's terrifying.
I don't like this
Yeah.
at
Let's
all.
go back to reality now. Let's talk about politics. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations are in order to Nikki Haley. She officially won the GOP primary in the swamp. I hope she's very proud about her swamp victory. No one else seems to care except Democrats for some reason. NBC News reports Nikki Haley gets first 2024 win in Washington, D.C. GOP primary. Oh boy, are you guys ready for this one? I'm going to give a shout out to No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. Perhaps he should change his name to No Context with Brian Tyler Cohen. He said, wow, Nikki Haley just won her first primary, defeating Trump by a massive 30-point margin, 63-33 in D.C. This is going to send Trump into a meltdown. You see, here's the problem. Anybody who follows this guy and legitimately like thinks he's telling you the truth, this guy's ripping you off. I can tell you, how do I know he's actually lying intentionally? Anybody who actually looked at the data and chose to tweet a metric would not give you the percentages because the percentages are meaningless. Why? Let me pull up the DC let me see if we have here DC primary results. Nikki Haley certainly got that 63% with 1,274 votes to Donald Trump's 676. Oh, you're saying about 1,900 or 2,000 people voted in total in a city of what, 700,000? The GOP primary was effectively non-existent. It was pointless. Why would not Brian Tyler Cohen just say Nikki Haley won by 600 votes? That's not really impressive, is it? It sounds like it's very close. He won't tweet Nikki Haley got 1,000 votes. He won't tweet she won by 600. Instead, he'll tweet 63 to 33%.
Massive victory.
Massive victory. Congratulations, Nikki Haley, on winning a couple hundred people more in a place Donald Trump doesn't think matters and didn't want to campaign in anyway.
I hope she enjoys the 19 delegates. I really feel like that's going to turn this whole thing around for her.
I was actually surprised there were 1,800 Republicans in D.C.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That was the buried lead to me.
Take a look at this. I got for you the 2022 Cook Partisan Voting Index, and it was literally just there. There we go. There we go. Let's take a little mosey on over to there's West Virginia. Hey. You love West Virginia. Look at this. What's it? R plus 22 in 2022, and West Virginia's first is R plus 23. How about that? But take a look at their DC. Now DC does not have a rating because it's a federal jurisdiction. But take a look at this. Can we zoom in anymore? There we go. So here's Maryland 4, D plus 40. Here's Maryland 8, D plus 29. Here's Virginia's 11th, D plus 18. And Virginia's 8th, D plus 26. And DC is right there in the middle. Naturally.
It's
DC
just a Republican stronghold.
93% Democrat votes. 93%. Donald Trump is going to go campaign for the swamp monster Republicans. Why?
It'd be a waste of a weekend leading up to Super Tuesday.
Exactly.
There's no reason to do that, especially when, you're all important, you're all beautiful. Look, 19 delegates is really not make or break right now.
19 delegates, that's not nothing. I mean, 19, okay, she said 43 to Trump's 200 and something. Okay, but the bigger issue is, why are the Democrat pundits acting like Nikki Haley actually won something? This is how they keep default liberals locked in a stupor. So now you're going to have liberals going around being like, whoa, hey, did you hear Nikki Haley beat Trump like by 30 points? She might win. And you're going to be like, oh, she won by 600 votes in a Democrat district, in a 92% Democrat area. Okay, means nothing. Super Tuesday is going to be tomorrow. Trump's going to it's going to be a blowout. It's a waste of our time. There shouldn't even be a primary at this point. Nikki Haley should just go away and Trump would be the nominee. But because of her, we're wasting time. So congratulations, Nikki.
Well, that's her job. Her job's to waste time. Her job's to damage Trump. So she's doing a smashing job of it. Although I feel like the DC victory was a bit of a textbook Pyrrhic victory. Like, you somehow have Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, who was already president. So normally you would think, oh, that person, he's got the incumbent problems. They've allowed a guy who was president, who's got $1 gazillion, to be the outsider. Like, what a gift to him that she went in and won like the home district of war pigs and swamp rats. Like, it's perfect. And so Trump's like, yeah,
the swamp doesn't like me.
Exactly. Like,
take it to the swamp.
Trump wouldn't want to win in DC.
Right. It was actually fantastic for him to have lost DC. Now, I will give props to Nikki. She is doing what only 1% or one person before her has successfully done. I call it the full Mondale. So Walter Mondale lost statewide election in every single state in the entire country. So he lost 49 states in DC in 84, but he won Minnesota. So he was almost there to the full Mondale. And then he ran for Senate in 2002 and he lost to Norm Coleman. So he added Minnesota to the map. He's lost statewide election in every single state in the country. Nikki Haley is going to be the first woman in history to have lost statewide election in every state.
Just in time for Women's History Month. Yeah, let's go, Nikki Haley.
Props to you, Nikki. No one can take that away from you.
When's Women's History Month?
It's March. Welcome to Women's History Month.
I'm offended by that. It's Irish History Month.
Yeah. Well, last year for Women's History Month, I just profiled conservative women who opted to stay home with their family or campaigned, Phil Schlafly campaigned against the ERA. This year, I think I'm going to profile evil women who actively hurt other women. Probably, Margaret Sanger, a bunch of female poisoners, things
women
like that.
Women who you're glad are history.
Yeah, women who I feel like feminists should talk about more, and instead they sort of stuff them in the background.
You know what's funny about feminism is that feminism has a bias in favor of itself, because women who choose to stay home and be homemakers or be more traditional are not writing blogs and not in the media. Feminists are, so what happens? You will see a disproportionate amount of feminists arguing they're successful. Mm-hmm. That's just it.
And their feminist friends pat them on the back and say, yeah, you're doing a great job.
Well, no, the feminists are writing articles saying being feminist is great. I have no kids and life's never been better. Meanwhile, there's a woman who's got 3 kids, fulfilled and very happy in a loving relationship, and she is not writing articles for the New York Times about how great life is being single. So all of these younger women are seeing all these articles saying like, don't get married. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. But then you'll meet women who go to, their female relatives or their moms or their grandmothers and say like, what do you think I should do? And they would say, I really enjoyed having children. It brought me to you. These are good things. I mean, there is a disparity there. It's one of the things that bothered me about Nikki Haley's campaign. She had her whole moment where she said, like, these heels are my weapons or something like that. Like she's dabbling in that sort of light female empowerment that I just don't care about and actually find kind of like a deterrence from a candidate. If your policies are good, talk about them, but don't suddenly bring your gender into it unless you are hoping to sort of engage with the more moderate or more socially progressive part of your party.
Well, I think you have elucidated why the average single liberal woman is so angry. It's because she was sold a lie. She was told, look, you don't need to have a long-lasting relationship. You can have consequence-free sex. You can kill your unborn baby. You can have this great career. And then you'll be empowered and you'll have everything you ever wanted. And millions of people bought into this lie. And then they get to be 40 to 45 years old. They really can't have kids anymore. They thought this career that was going to fulfill them was going to make everything right. It's not. They're disappointed. They're unmarried. They're living alone. They're angry and they're bitter, and they have every right to be.
Yeah.
There was an article I read a few years ago where it said women are struggling to find men. Women in their 30s are struggling to find men who make as much money as they do. And I was just thinking, like, it was a New York Post article, and I thought, have they not figured out why that is? You're a woman who is 33. You're making $60,000 a year. You are trying to find a man your own age who makes the same amount of money. Ma'am, a 33-year-old guy who's making $60K is dating a 28-year-old. He's dating a 26-year-old. He's dating a younger woman. The younger woman dates the older guy. This is how it's always been. And I'm not saying it's good, but it's a tendency that younger women date older guys. Older guys have more status, more wealth, more access. Younger women get access to that by virtue of being younger, attractive women. And the women who are in their 30s are surprised they can't find anybody. And I got ragged on by the left when I read the article and pointed this out. And I'm like, if you're in your 30s, the answer is really simple. You got to find a guy who's in his 40s or 50s. And then you're going to find a guy who's like, I got the younger girl, and it's you. But they're trying to find men their own age who make the same amount of money, but they're not offering. A guy who's in his 30s, who's making 60, 70K, probably wants a family. So he's not looking for someone who's got a job and making a salary. But of course, the leftists get very, very offended at the notion because they want to believe. I'll put it this way. It's really simple. When I make a video and I say something like that, the reason why I don't get all of the trad wives screaming in my face is because they aren't making videos. They're raising kids. And the reason why you get so many angry feminists is because that's what they do. They're in media and they're working jobs and they're offended that you would dare question their choices or whatever, or argue that in some way they're going down the wrong path. Here's the thing. I don't care what they do. Ladies, you want to have a vlog and not get married and buy a bunch of cats? Like, literally don't care. However, if they're now coming out in these interviews complaining, I can't do this for these reasons, and I point out here's why, they get mad because the reality is, for what they claim to want, they are on the wrong track.
Right. And no one wants to be told, hey, you made a mistake 3 years, like you made a wrong turn back there. There's no way to recover from that. I mean, in a lot of these cases, you'd have to have the self-awareness to say, like, I actually did buy into a lie and I'm going to do my best to correct it, knowing that certain doors may be closed to me. And that's very hard to accept. It's much easier to,
What's Nikki Haley's
blame the
excuse?
messenger. What do you mean?
Why? She's clearly not going to win. Is it the I'm going to keep sitting here appearing on TV? I won't endorse Trump. Is she hoping he goes to prison?
I mean, she's spending someone else's money. So either she's been promised that Trump is out, that something's going to happen to him, or it doesn't matter because what else is she going to be doing?
Well, look at her trajectory. She was in Trump's administration. She was UN ambassador. And the left decided that they were going to destroy everyone who was ever involved with Trump. They were going to go and put them in jail, file criminal charges against them, make it impossible to hire them. You can think of case after case after case where this happened. So Nikki Haley has a problem there. She was a Republican. She had a good reputation. She went and worked for Trump. She could see the writing on the wall. What better way to turn that around and give herself a second act in her career than to do a heel turn on Trump? She'll be the left-wing media darling. She's going to get on all the corporate boards. She's going to get on MSNBC and CNN. So from a total self-interest perspective, I think it's worked great for her.
But if she doesn't learn how to talk while moving her mouth, because she does that thing where she keeps her teeth straight and she talks through her teeth like this, they're not going to want to put her on TV because it's very off-putting. Have you noticed that?
Maybe she'll become a radio host. No video.
Her teeth just don't. She like doesn't move her jaw when she talks, so her teeth just stay there, and it's really weird.
Then you throw in the 2-finger point that she likes to do, which drives me bonkers. I feel like I'm being
two-finger
lectured.
It is funny
I'm being
how
lectured by a 3rd grade teacher.
yeah, it's funny
like the
how
accordion
political
nuts.
candidates get like their own
The
signature
Trump-
hand gesture.
The Trump accordion's fantastic.
Right.
Love the accordion.
Or
Everyone
like
loves
the
it. Weird
Obama
Al
like
figured it out.
finger thumb thing. Like they have their signature hand
yeah,
gestures.
Obama
Oh
did
yeah,
that.
well that he stole that from Bill Clinton.
Yep.
The
Did
the
that a lot.
thumb. I feel your pain.
Wow, he was totally groomed by the Clintons. Obama. I didn't think about it at the time, but
He had all the outward effects of
Very
Clinton.
hard for border security. So important.
I can't turn it off because TikTok's
I've
made me
already
do a
started
capture.
building the wall. We built large
There you
sections,
go.
and we're fixing up a lot of other sections that are a mess. So you have ports of entry, and we have great security at the ports of entry. And then you may have fencing or walls up and down, left and right.
Okay, so
east
for those who are
and
just
west.
listening, and all you're hearing is Trump talk and weird accordion sounds, Trump does the thing where his hands go left and right. So several years, this is 7 years ago.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. 7 years ago. This is 2017. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It was 2020. Okay, it's only 4 years ago. But
It felt
still,
like 7 years ago.
4 years ago. They made this video of Trump going, "Ree, ree, ree." Oh, I love it. Those are the good old days.
The internet's a really amazing place. The creativity. If someone's like, I'm going to spend a couple, I don't know how long, hours, minutes, just making sure an accordion is there this whole time.
You gotta love the memes. We talk about all the things the founders might see today and roll in their graves about it, but look at the political cartoons they had back then.
No,
And
they'd love
they were
meme
fine.
culture.
Memes are amazing. The depth, the resolution in memes, the information
They would be
contained in
about
them.
it.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Let's.
Oh,
wanna
do you
something
think
real quick?
information needs to become popular in order to qualify it as a meme? Because like sometimes there'll be a picture. I don't think of it as a meme until it goes viral, and then I'm like, oh, now it has become a meme, like a mind.
Well, meme is just it's like gene, but for idea. That's what it means.
Oh, gene like genetics.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was Richard
Memetics,
Dawkins
yes.
who coined it.
So
it would have to be viral.
No,
in
no,
order-
no.
Oh, so you okay?
So the reason why Trump's the meme magic of 2015, 2016 worked so well is you could condense an entire political argument down into a single image. That image is a meme. It's like a genetic, it's memetic information that is condensed into a single piece of information, into a single picture. You share that picture, and it would be something like, you know, a guy pole vaulting over the southern the Rio Grande, and someone just makes an image, and it's a guy pole vaulting over the Rio Grande, and that makes a massive political argument just in and of itself. That when shared, people will laugh and understand. We have a serious problem on the southern border, and someone has presented the absurdity as a form of humor. And there were other ones which were way better. Trump was really good at this, posting things that hit like 17 different areas all at once. And the Trump supporters were really good at this. The left was terrible. The left is still famous for their memes having just massive walls of text to break down and describe what's going on because they don't know how to condense that into a joke, or they're not allowed to.
Yeah, they're not funny, which makes making memes really hard if you're not allowed to be funny.
Would you consider Pepe the meme, the green frog guy?
He was a meme in that he represented, he as a character, he could represent a bunch of different ideas and a bunch of different circumstances you might find yourself in. So it condensed a bunch of apolitical ideas. But then you give Pepe, you know, an American flag, and now the Pepe is a character that represents like a person and an experience, and then you put him in a certain circumstance.
I got all I needed out of that one.
All right, World War III, baby. CBS News, Germany accuses Russia of hybrid attack with leaked audio of military officials discussing Ukraine. Wait, what? All right, let's slow down. The Daily Beast says leaked audio proves Germany plans to attack Russian territory, Kremlin claims. It's the second time in a week that Moscow has claimed to have evidence of an imminent Western attack. Long story short. Actually, I'll just throw it to Mike Cernovich. He says World War III has already begun. British troops are directing airstrikes in Ukraine. Germany intends to bomb Crimea. DW News reported Germany's defense ministry confirmed the authenticity of a recording leaked by Russian state media in which high-ranking military officers secretly discuss aid for Ukraine. Specifically, whether Taurus cruise missiles would be capable of destroying a bridge, seemingly a reference to the new bridge linking Russian-occupied Crimea to the Russian mainland over the Kerch Strait. The clip also contained references to the British having a few people on the ground. So Vladimir Putin comes out and says, this is evidence of an attack. Germany accuses Russia of an attack. Okay, fine. Gentlemen, I don't care who's responsible. Y'all are both admitting an attack happened. So are we in World War III yet or what?
We're in a world proxy war. And I wouldn't even use this as the main evidence.
A world proxy war?
Because you don't actually have all the powers going to war with each other like you did in World War I and World War II, where you had conventional tank battles, you had air battles. It's fairly well constrained to between Ukraine and Russia, and yet everyone else is throwing in all the cash and all the money to make it happen. And it didn't start with this. I mean, you can go back to 2014, I think during the CIA provoked Maidan revolution, say it started then, but the Nord Stream bombing. Like the idea that Putin went and blew up his main source of economic and political leverage over Western Europe. Like, are you kidding me? No, of course it was NATO or Ukraine or the West or whatever you want to call it. I would say the powers that be in this country, they want a world war. They desperately want it. They've said it.
Population reduction?
Well, they make a lot of money on it, and they have an enemy that they are able to focus people's hatred on. So as long as I've been an adult, America has been at war. Started with Afghanistan after 9/11, and then they added Iraq onto it. And then literally like the second that Afghanistan was over, they're like, well, crap, we got to make a new one. So you just moved right on. Like they just seamlessly moved over into Ukraine. So, I mean, it could just be that people running things are just straight evil, and so they like war. It could be a weird ideological thing where they actually believe that Vladimir Putin is the greatest threat the world has ever seen, which is obviously nonsense. The guy's a kleptocrat who's running the equivalent of a third world gas station. And then you could just have like the straight up war pigs who are like, yeah, this is actually great for the bottom line.
Yeah, we are making so much money right now.
Defense stocks are crushing it right now. Yeah, I think they clearly want world war. They're trying to get to it. And it's why they react so angrily when anyone goes on TV or goes to Congress and is like, hey guys, I don't know, our border's overrun. You said we couldn't spend $5 billion on a wall. Maybe we shouldn't spend $250 billion in Ukraine. And it looks like they're showing a cross to a vampire.
Their response is like, how dare you say that?
It's insane.
It's crazy. So, but when does it become a world war? Like if we're in a proxy war right now, what's the tipping point? When do we
I would think the second other nations start putting ground troops in.
I'm really excited for Harry Sisson getting drafted and sent to Ukraine because he's a patriot.
No, he'll get a deferment.
Well, come on, don't say that.
No, so important people don't have to go and fight wars. Wars are the things that the government gets other people.
We want him to you know.
I'm sure he would volunteer. I'm sure he would want to go.
Sown.
He's a fortunate son of the Biden regime. He's not going there.
He certainly is a fortunate son. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. That's a sad reality. But maybe we can ask him to pull off an Edge of Tomorrow, and we'll say, well, you got to go. You got to film from the front lines. Make him go do some propaganda work.
Good idea.
Isn't that what JFK did? Didn't he he could have gotten out somehow, and he was like, no, I'm going to go to war. I'm going to fight. I mean, there was a time when people did feel called to serve their countries when there's military action. I just think right now no one would do that because no one trusts the government.
Yeah, well, look what the government does to the people who volunteer to go over there. They send them over there in a mission they have no plan to win. They watch them get blown up. They come home scarred mentally and emotionally. They have their veterans benefits cut. And that's the government's extent of involvement. I mean, I think you'd have to be nuts right now looking at how this government and this regime treats people who went to combat and say to yourself, I think I should go and do this. And it's why the recruiting numbers are so awful. Because we've all seen how the government treats people who go to war, and they treat them like crap.
Well, it's probably why they put forward the Courage to Serve Act and are letting millions of non-citizens, criminal aliens, flood the border. Because they're going to be like, all right, you're all here. Get in the military vehicle for your deployment.
Come back to this spot on this date, and you'll all get in the thing and go deploy.
Here's a question.
I think that'll work for sure.
What do you think conservatives would say if Joe Biden came out and said, we were going to take all of the undocumented, he would call them, the newcomers, and we're going to deploy them to Ukraine. Don't worry, they're not American citizens. Like, what would people say to that? Like, the left would lose their mind, but they got to support Ukraine, right?
Man, that's a great question.
The right's going to be like, well, he is deporting them. do we really care where he's deporting them to?
No, because it'd be strings, right? We're not just like sending them being like, bye, Ukraine government, you take these new soldiers. It would be like, well, we sent them there, so we're obligated to give them care, so we got to up our aid package.
I'm saying hypothetically right now, Biden comes out and says, we'll deport all of the criminal aliens, all of the undocumented who come to this country will be deported officially to Ukraine.
They will have American equipment, such as
Not even
M16s and whatever the hell weapons they're
but
using.
no strings. They're you know, my friends in the Republican Party, you know, I can see that they're rather upset about this. So we have come up with a compromise in order to get more troops into Ukraine without spending any more money. And I mean, it's a win-win for conservatives, right? You don't got to spend any money on Ukraine. The Democrats say, okay, we're going to cut all of our budget requests for Ukraine. Republicans go, and we're going to deport every single criminal alien in this country. And they go, and what's the catch? None. They're just going to Ukraine.
So it's a win-win, except for the millions of people being trafficked over the border.
People are already being trafficked over the border. Like, at least now they know where they're
now
going.
They're getting thrown in a meat grinder.
Oh my
Congrats.
gosh, it's crazy.
I wouldn't be
gosh,
surprised, to
what
be
a
completely
nightmare.
honest, if, you know, with the Courage to Serve Act, for those that don't know, is basically if you're an illegal immigrant and you serve, you can get citizenship. I would not be surprised if Biden says, like we're on the doorstep of World War III. Within a few months, he says, the Courage to Serve Act, we're gonna run this program. Congress, of course, is in uproar. Biden defies Supreme Court, does it anyway, whatever. Takes as many as possible illegal immigrants, puts them on a plane, drops them off in Ukraine, and they never come back.
I think we would have Republican Senate leadership saying, no, we need to compromise here. All the illegals, they'll take the Americans' jobs, and we'll just draft the Americans and send them over there.
Yeah, compromise. We'll let you do the amnesty package, and then we'll draft Americans.
I think that's what we would see from Republicans in leadership in Congress.
I also feel like Ukraine would come back to the U.S. and be like, you deported all these people here, so now we have an even bigger unskilled population that's under threat of war, so we need more aid always. Like, Ukraine would be on board if we continue to get money, but ultimately, there's no way that we could just be like, and we have now diverted this group of people, these people coming to our country, to Ukraine, without Ukraine being like, you now owe us even more. And then every Democrat in both sides of Congress would be like, well, we did make their lives harder, so now we should probably give them more money. Like, that's ultimately what this is going to come down to.
Well, that's the other side of the coin with the nonstop forever war. They make all the money on the front end, breaking everything, and then you got to come back in and rebuild it. Mm-hmm. That costs like 2-3 times as much.
Keep yourself employed forever this way.
And then by then you'll have a new war you can start.
That's so fun.
But back to the main question, like if Biden announced we are suspending all funding requests for Ukraine, and we will be deporting all illegal immigrants in this country to Ukraine to fight in the war, like, would conservatives be like, no, please don't, you can't do that? Like, well, in serious, like, what would the PR public response be?
It's such a no-brainer, so they wouldn't do it. So you're admitting you have the ability to send them somewhere. Just send them back. Mm-hmm. Just send them back. Send them back to where they were.
Because Democrats would be like, you can't send them to a war zone. Their part is like, we're deporting them to fight in a war, but how do you make sure they fight in the war? You really can't unless you make them part of your army and give them the skills and training, which I don't want to invest in people who are already in this country illegally. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I don't support this. Oh, if you're an illegal immigrant, you can join our military and then become a citizen. Like, but then you are admitting to me that you're here illegally and I'm supposed to pretend that you're not committing a crime by being here. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's no consistency there.
Also, Biden would never do that because the whole point of opening the border is to replace the American people.
Yeah, he only wants to send Americans to war.
To create more congressional districts that will vote Democrat.
Right. Well, and it's an ideological thing, too. The left, the communists believe that borders are racist and evil, and America's just an economic zone that happens to have a different currency. So they ideologically reject the entire concept of borders. Borders are racist and oppressive.
Sure.
I like my borders, my walls, my house.
That's because you're a privileged white male.
Who knows what wild animals might arrive.
Someone make a picture of a guy pole vaulting through Ian's window into his house. That's a meme to explain the problem.
Give it to me.
Of illegal immigration.
Walls are actually very cool, and so are borders.
So there's on the 11th, they're ending that federal loan program for banks. Did you hear about that? They've been doing this thing where they've been printing out loans to banks to try and stabilize. Yeah, right. It's called, what was it called? Someone brought it up to us, the federal loan program or something like that. I don't know, bank funding program, but it's ending on the 11th. And now a lot of people believe that we're going to see a major economic collapse in the next few months because of it. This, along with all the war stuff, the collapse in recruitment numbers, the flooding of illegal immigrants. You know, a lot of people like to make references to ancient Rome because Rome had a lot of these things happen. But the reality is, you know, we talked to these two guys about the Roman Empire, and all of the things that we're talking about happened over hundreds of years in Rome. You know, barbarians were over a long period of time. The credit crunch was in one period. Amnesty was in another period. So it was like over 100 years these things happened. Everyone hears these little tidbits and they go, wow, ancient Rome had that happen. It's like, yeah, but ancient Rome was also like, what, 1,000 years or something like that? So like the Roman Empire was a very, very long time. That being said, watching all of these things happen at once kind of feels like it's all gonna just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there is a level of stress and desperation, this feeling that we're at the end. I have to remember her name, Emily something on Instagram, but I referenced this a little while ago. She had this
Saves
video.
America?
No, I'll find it in a second. She made this reel where it's like, it's kind of surreal to be planning your wedding, you know, in 2024 because I don't know if we'll be here at the end of it. But also, should my color scheme be blue and pink? Like, there's this thing where it's like, it feels. I'm gonna look her up because she deserves a shout out. But it's this idea that the world feels so tumultuous right now, but also every day you get up and go to work. It feels like anything could happen, but also maybe the ship will stabilize, and so you just keep going. And especially if we were talking about this before the show, but if you're economically crunched right now, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, I can only imagine that you're going to basically fall into crippling depression because it's just getting so tight. It's getting so unbearable.
Yeah, I feel like it's the acceleration of the decline that makes it feel as though like things are snowballing. And it's just culturally, to look back in 2008, Barack Obama ran on a platform of endorsing traditional marriage. 16 years ago. That's not a long time. I'll say it, 5 years ago, everyone agreed the boys and girls were different.
Yeah. It was Emily Grace Rainey. That's what I was referencing before.
Let's pull up this story from Daily Wire so we can talk about me. Elon Musk responds to blowback over misgendering policy. Literally, the story is about a tweet I made. I'll give you guys the quick rundown. Last week, when someone super chatted about the misgendering policy being reinstated on X, I got pissed off and I just said, dude, I'm pulling all my money. I'm canceling our accounts. I'm done. I'm not spending money on this. For me, it was kind of personal because this was quite literally what I was debating Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde on with Joe Rogan. Was one of the principal issues was the misgendering policy is an ideological position held by the left and not the right. Ergo, Twitter is biased left. If the right had a rule on X, it would say calling a person by a preferred pronoun is a bannable offense. If a person tells you to use a pronoun that is not aligned with their biological sex, you will be banned. That's the right-wing position. The left-wing position is the inversion. The moderate position is don't have one. Don't have a misgendering policy. So when I saw that X reinstated it, I got pissed. I said, I'm shutting down all ad spends. Elon Musk responded and said it was just pertaining to Brazil, a court order. Homophobic slurs were considered illegal. They put in place. A lot of people are saying they don't respect the explanation because there's no reason to have an English language American rule for a Brazilian issue. And they very well could have said, if you engage in illegal activity, your account may be suspended or shadow banned. That would have satisfied the court ruling on homophobic slurs or whatever. They could have also made that rule base specific to Brazil. They didn't. What we ended up seeing was a bunch of people tweeting out when they had been deranked or shadow banned for saying things like there's only two sexes. They weren't harassing people. They weren't targeting people. People were having conversations amongst themselves where someone would respond, like person A says, I believe this. And the other person goes, well, you're right. There are only two sexes. So I believe this too. Deranked. Boom. Hateful conduct. Elon says it's going to be fixed. We will see. For the time being, my position, okay, we'll keep our business accounts active, but I'm not going to run any ads on X. Why? I am not saying to Elon Musk, if you don't do what I want, I won't, like, I'm going to pull money from you. When this all started, you had these big companies pull their ads off X, despite the fact they're still advertising on other platforms where things are worse. Elon said, go F yourselves. So the Babylon Bee, I think the Babylon Bee did it first, the Quartering, I believe, and several other people said, we're going to run ad campaigns on X in support of him defying the machine. Now that X is back in alignment with the machine, I am out. I was buying ads for one, we want the marketing, but two, It's like, okay, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and make sure I'm supporting companies that I like. Now that X is back to having a misgendering policy, which I disagree with, I am not going to put this money in. I don't blame Elon because he's running multiple companies, but the way it feels is Elon tells these big corporations to screw off. We all cheer and then pledge money. Then X quietly goes back to those corporations and says, don't worry, we put the rule back in place. You can advertise again, as if to double dip, to convince, how to convince us to donate. I'm not saying Elon did that on purpose. I'm saying it feels in the grand scheme like that. So my attitude is, okay, if you're going to go back to being a woke company, I'm not going to do the ads I committed to. The only reason I committed to doing those ads was because the company I thought was doing right and they were worth supporting. If they're doing wrong and they're not worth supporting, I got other places to run ads. So this is where we're currently at right now, but I'm curious. What do you guys think? Should people cancel, or should we wait and see if Elon takes it down, or what?
With social media administration, you have at least two choices. One of them is you look around the world, you want to operate in every country on earth. So you do what all these countries have different laws, and you've got to like bend your social media network to these different laws. And like, okay, you can't say that word now if you use our network, and if we want to operate in Finland, and you can't say that if we want to operate in China. So what Minds did is they're like, look, if it's legal in the United States, then you can do it on Minds. And that means all the countries that don't agree with us, we're not operating in those countries, which is a big loss of finance. Can potentially. So Elon's going the other direction. He's like, if it's illegal in another country, we want to operate there. We're gonna make concessions on our site. The problem is, I don't know if that's just for Brazil. What they're talking about, Brazil made a law.
It's not just for Brazil.
Yeah, because it's going to apparently affect site wide.
Tons
just
of
for some
people,
Brazilian law. It doesn't. I don't like that method.
Tons of people have already been posting flags on their content saying they've been deranked. I've seen some people get suspensions or whatever. So it's clearly affecting everybody.
If there are ways to like geolocate it and only Brazilian accounts can get deranked from that stuff, that's one thing, but that's requires a lot of tracking. And
it's really
also
simple.
A little disconcerting.
X should say in their policies, if you engage in illegal activities, we may restrict your account. That's it. Done. Boom. Problem solved. And if in Brazil it's illegal, then in Brazil, if someone files and they can prove an illegal activity took place, then X can suspend. And if in the United States, someone complained about being misgendered, they'd say that's not illegal. What do you want us to do about it?
And they'll get someone in Brazil will get flamed by somebody with a burner account that they don't know where it's from. And they'll be like, well, it's not a Brazilian account that's harassing you, so technically it doesn't break the law.
The reality is the leftists will create burner accounts and then harass themselves and then complain about it.
Yes, that will happen. And what is harassment even? I don't even like to use that word.
I think the whole X experiment is interesting because it really does feel like it's at Elon Musk's mercy, right? Like the question is, do we trust Elon Musk, and what do we think his ultimate objectives and perspectives is? I think a lot of people really won over to him because for some people he's just this, tech billionaire who does kind of eccentric things, when he was like, this is what I think X should be like. I'm going to buy it. It's going to go private. But, is he really at the helm, or is someone else steering the ship? Is he the one setting the values for the company, or is it kind of done by committee, and who's on that committee? It's hard to say.
Well, it looks like he did not make this decision because he's like, looking into it was his first response. Like, I don't know. And so he obviously is not the guy that chose that.
Again, that's you saying if you trust him, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying theoretically anyone could say, oh, I'm looking into this policy that I was definitely there when we made it. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just saying we don't really know what happens behind closed doors at X. And there are benefits to that. And potentially this was, this is just a stumbling block on a path towards, a better platform. And on the other hand, I can't say because I don't know. I don't know that any of us do.
I think you mentioned it too, that he's working on other things. He's got Tesla, SpaceX. And so he hired Linda Yaccarino on purpose to CEO X. Mm-hmm. And I think he's just my guess is that he's given massive amounts of delegation power to committees and people.
Well, you can actually see it happen. You can see when he kind of goes away. I saw this most clearly after the Covenant shooting in Nashville. Where he clearly stepped away to go do other stuff because the guy's got like a bazillion different companies he's running. And the second he's out the door, the second the cat's away, the little woke mice go and play. And every time he seems to be focused on something else, you see these little rules pop up. And then the guy's like, for goodness sake, man, I can't even like leave for 5 seconds and you guys go and change our policies. It has to be maddening for the guy. I will say, I find the entire conversation maddening. The solution here is if you don't like what someone says, you can just block them or not listen to them. Like when I see a television show that I don't like, I don't write letters to the FEC and whine about it, and I don't organize letter writing campaigns. I just don't watch it. Like
Maybe we should.
I mean, but the question is, like, you're saying if Elon Musk steps away, obviously he has selected people that should be in leadership that he can trust. Like, is it time for X to clean house a little bit? Like, is there a solution for this type of policy, especially if you're noticing it's a repeating pattern, right? Like, it is interesting that it does happen, you know, when Elon Musk tends to be distracted. Does that mean that there are people who don't share his values that are given authority over the platform?
Clearly, he has not gotten all of the rot out of that woodwork.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is a people problem. It's not a system problem. It's not an algorithm problem. He has people in there who are actively opposed to what he wants to do with the platform. And they wait until he leaves and they push as far as they can. And look, it's working. Like they're getting little bits of ground back and forth. And at some point, if he actually wants it to be a free speech place where people can say what they want as long as they're not breaking laws, he's actually going to have to put the hammer down and just keep firing people until everyone gets
So does that mean Linda Yaccarino is a bad hire? Because she's
I don't
the
know,
second in command?
because I'm not in there.
Right, it's so hard to tell.
It's so hard to know. But he should know. He's the guy who owns it. Like, it's not my job to know that. It's his job to know that.
Right.
Part of this challenge is when countries change their laws, then you're like, well, geez, now Canada's got a new law about what you can't say. Does that mean we need to change our rules on the site? And Elon, I think a week or two ago, I saw a video of him saying, like, look, these other countries changed the laws. We have to follow these countries' laws to function in these countries.
But you don't need a Brazilian law in the United States.
And you don't need to function in Brazil. You just don't need to, bro.
No, but hey, look, he's allowed to.
You're allowed to, but you don't need to.
I'm not opposed to this at all. When Elon Musk comes out and he gets attacked because, like, in Turkey, X banned a certain number of accounts, I'm like, I don't care. I'm not Turkey. Turkey has its own leaders, its own laws, its own government. They can do whatever they want. And you want to complain, but free speech for journalists in those countries, like, if you're following the laws in those countries, great. In the United States, they're not. They're making up weird ideological rules that fall outside of the law and outside of the constitutional protections. Why? That's what I'm complaining about. So if Elon Musk said, quite literally, if it's legal, it's allowed, I'd be like, wow, that's a bold free speech move. We're not even there yet. So when Elon Musk is like, in Brazil, we're going to do it Brazil's way, and Turkey, we're going to do it Turkey's way, fine. But then when he goes, and then the United States, we're going to do it Brazil's way, I'm like, why? No, you shouldn't do that.
That's the border. That's the border crossing we don't need. But I don't know if there's easy ways to make sure that you only get perpetrated in your own nation.
They used to do this. Remember, there used to be tweets, and it would be like, this tweet is unavailable in Germany, Finland, Estonia, and it would list all the countries.
Yes.
They used to do that.
Yeah, that to me is such an easy technological problem. Like they know where the readers are coming from. They know where the posters are coming from.
When Google was trying to function in China, I think it was called Dragonfly. Was that the name of that project?
That was their second.
They had to build an entirely new system because they would have had to alter their Google system so much for it to exist in China. They were just like, we can't. It's going to be too big of a change. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know. They don't necessarily geolocate every account, and it's almost, you could argue, unethical to make people give you their location when they sign up for a social network. In my opinion, I think anonymity is a key part of liberty, or at least access to anonymity. So I don't know, man. I don't know about forcing people to reveal their locations, but.
Well, so you bring up China. So I was in China in 2005. We land in Beijing. First thing I do is go to like the little business center computer in the hotel. I Googled Tiananmen Square. And it was no Tank Man. It was nothing like that. It was just a picture of Tiananmen Square. And I thought at the time, again, this was only 19 years ago, this is the most Orwellian, insane Soviet thing I've ever seen. That's Google in America now.
100%.
That, like, you search for certain things. That's Google Gemini. They were doing the China Google Tiananmen Square nonsense, which I just find mind-blowing from a company whose motto used to be "Don't be evil."
And they say, like, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. There's three things, but then you don't know what you don't know. And that's like 99% of reality is what you don't know. How much of history, like you're saying Google is obfuscating data, Tiananmen Square, but like just in our libraries over the last 100 years of that is like left out. It's a question that can't be answered, but like hypothetically, like how much are we being fed? How much of what we believe is real has been crafted for us
Right.
to
I
believe
mean,
it?
this is the same conversations people have when people draft textbooks or school curriculum, right? Like, you can't put absolutely every single thing ever in, one school semester. So what are we going to teach? What is the most important thing that people know? And what is what we want them to know about it? How do we want to present this information? How do we want to cast certain people in history? That kind of control of narrative exists everywhere. It's just interesting because theoretically, if you are a high school student and your teacher says, the Confederates were on the wrong side of history and they did bad things, you could go to Google and say, okay, well, let me independently research and verify this information. But if Google has decided, no, we agree with your curriculum, these people were bad and we can never talk about them in any light but that they were evil, then that's really all the information you have access to.
It seems
It's totalitarian.
The good thing would be an open system of some sort. And it is shocking that
Good
people
for
would
who, though?
attempt to take us in any other direction than an open system at this point.
But an open system doesn't make money and it doesn't give you power.
Yeah, but the species survival, that's where it's like the short-sightedness of power and money is like, yo, we gotta go a little further.
Planned obsolescence was a very bad thing. Light bulbs could have lasted forever. But they were like, yeah, but we can't sell them. So let's make light bulbs burn out. And so they intentionally made light bulbs burn out.
Mm-hmm.
The first light bulb, or one of the first, has been, and I believe still to this day, it's been on since like for 100 years in a firehouse in New York or something like that.
As long as it's an incandescent, I don't care how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Give me that warm yellow light.
The good old
But
daylight.
they were able to stay lit forever. And then eventually they were like, no, let's make them burn out.
This is a bad business model.
It is.
They credited Thomas Edison with it, but it was Humphrey Davy, apparently, built the first light bulb in 1806.
Well, there you go.
Interesting concept.
All right, everybody, we're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because when we announce these members-only, these private shows, it's only for members because they're private. So we don't announce it on the website. We don't do email, we only do email blasts. We don't do ads or anything like that. And so if you're a member, we're going to have 50 tickets available, members only. And then we're going to be setting up a smaller elite member VIP hangout on the second floor. The plan for the Cast Brew Coffee Shop building, it's 3 stories. First floor is under construction. Hopefully within a few months, we got a coffee shop up and running. Then the second floor is the private social club. Third floor is where we do the shows when we do the show, so it'll be closed most of the time. But if you're an elite member at Timcast, you will get a key fob. You will walk up to the door and go, boop, and the door will open, and you will hang out. And there'll be a pool table, there'll be couches, there'll be TVs, there'll be snacks. There'll be a guy wearing an old 1800s style bartender's outfit, cleaning the glass, and he'll be like, what are you having, sir? I'm kidding. I'd love to have that, but I don't know if we can have booze. Private social club. There's something about private clubs where you're able to get alcohol without a license because it's a private place or whatever. We got to figure all that stuff out. But the idea is to create a social club so that like-minded individuals can come together, meet, talk, share ideas, and can organize, and we have that space. Tomorrow is the first event, and we're probably going to have an event every month set up, and it's going to be a lot of fun with tickets available. But you got to be a member at timcast.com. Otherwise, you won't find out about it. And then you also, as a member, you'll get access to our uncensored show coming up at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Let's read. Jose Alfredo Diaz says first. You were first. David Wilkins says first. No. Polly Perry says, am I first? Nope. Third. All right. Shane H. Wilder says, when SCOTUS does something that makes Keith Olbermann piss out his eyeballs, then you know it's going to be a good day. Yo, that dude lost his mind. His brain
crazy.
shattered into a million
He
pieces.
called for the dissolution of the Supreme Court, like publicly. That's so crazy. He used to be a respected journalist. It's
What's
so
amazing,
crazy.
he used to have his own show on MSNBC in prime time. He was like a
Yep.
big dog, and now he's just angry, sending spittle-flecked streams through the internet from who knows where.
He's old man yells at cloud.
Yeah.
That's all he's become. Sad. Ron says, Tim, you've inspired me to buy my first skateboard and learn to skate in my mid-30s. Wish me luck and thanks. Skateboarding is so much fun. So I've been skateboarding for a couple decades. Been skateboarding a lot recently. And we've got a personal trainer now too. So just getting in mad shape, checking macros and all that stuff. And so I haven't worn a pair of rollerblades in a long time. So I decided to go on the half pipe again and get some air. Rollerblading is VO2 max within 10 seconds. Like I put rollerblades on, I drop in, and my heart rate's at 190. Skateboarding is so chill. It's just like, man, if you want to rip your heart to shreds and just max out, just rollerblade. But you know, the skateboard, a lot of skateboarders are jocks, I guess you call them. That's the worst thing about the skateboard community is that around like the late 90s, it became really jockey. All these skateboarders were like, you can't do anything else. Fun's not allowed. You got to be cool like me. And it's like, dude, we're gonna have a lot of fun. I want to get these pogo. I ordered some pogo sticks.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I ordered air compression pro pogo sticks.
Nice, dude.
Because I was watching this video of a guy hitting a handrail on a pogo stick.
Whoa.
Dude, it's crazy. And like some dude did like a backflip and then flipped the pogo stick over himself while he was flipping.
That's
Dude, I love
wild.
everything, dude. Circuses are fun. Just do whatever you want to do. Have fun. Have fun with it.
Do you want a pogo stick with us?
No, that sounds terrifying.
But these air compression pogo sticks, they can jump. I think the record is 11 feet.
Wow.
Dude jumped 11 feet on a pogo stick. It's wild.
Sounds like a guaranteed trip for Sean to the hospital.
But it's so cool. Like I'm watching a video and a guy's pogo sticking and then he jumps and he lands on a handrail and slides down it. And I'm like, that's what it's all about, man. Just got to be creative and have fun. Having fun is what it's all about. Sean Brown says Baldur's Gate 3 honor mode playthrough when? I'm on like playthrough 87.
Is honor mode the hardest difficulty?
Yeah, it's where like when you die, you die.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you die. And it's the hardest. So it's like honor mode. It's like it's real. You don't get to say you can't load. You get one single save.
That you get to use one time in the game. You can save it once.
It's still like if you turn the game off, you can load where you were. But if you die, it says you died. It's over. Bye.
You can't reload after that.
If you die, you can choose to play in a custom version, but it's still similar.
But you're not in honor mode anymore.
You've lost the achievement. Yeah, that's fun. Jacob Parody says, Tim, thanks so much for letting me shout out to Narbar's Candles. Hey, well, when you put in the super chat, we shout it out. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, I saw folks say you went too hard too fast on Friday. I say to them, no way, you were right. Time for hand sitting is far past over. There's a nation to save. Elon replied, we'll see what he does. I want to stress this. I don't like the idea. People were saying like, didn't Elon say he couldn't be blackmailed with money? And I'm like, my thing is, we are not big advertisers. It is hard for us to advertise. And when we do, we choose to do it. When Elon said he was standing up for us, I said, then I will stand up with him. When his company then said, psych, I went, psych? That's it. Like, we're back to base. I didn't pull the money to be like, haha, now you better do what I say or else. It's like, I only agreed to buy the marketing campaign in the first place because I thought they had our back. So if he fixes it, like, I'm down. I'm not even kidding. It was funny because we had a 25K ad campaign and people were like, no, you didn't. And I screenshot it and posted like, there it was. It's gone now. And we actually were going to do a $100,000 ad buy for the Culture War podcast. And we were in the process of putting it together. So now it's paused. I'd love to put it up there, but I can advertise it literally anywhere else. And I do think it's fair to advertise on X regardless of what Elon does. I'm just saying the commitment of $250,000 in ads is on pause. I may still buy ads because I do think it's hypocritical to single out Twitter or X just because of this one thing. That's why I'm like, we're not going to get rid of our pro account. That's unfair. We use a lot of platforms that do bad things. I don't want to single X out for that just because they did a bad thing. And to be fair, Elon's response humbles me. I'm like, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's the fact that he's really willing to reach out to people and say like, I really want to make this right. I'm like, that's just way better than most companies. So, you know, it is what it is. I was mad. Let's read some more. The Emperor's Champion says, wow, calling to dissolve SCOTUS. Y'all Democrats are the worst tyrants ever in American history, except for maybe George III. Haha, that's a good one. That's wild. They're calling Keith Olbermann. I don't know if he counts as a they, but he's calling for SCOTUS to be dissolved. That's absolutely insane that we're at this point. And that they're trying to remove Trump off the ballot. They're the biggest threat to our democracy.
That's what the headline would be if he were a conservative, right? They would be like, crazy man calls for the end of SCOTUS. How could he do this? Instead, they're like, he's making some great points. It's very interesting.
Bricktop says, crypto is pumping. Do your duty. Invest in MAGA. Oh, is it really? I'm not going to give anybody any advice on crypto, but I am not a big fan of what they call ish coins. Yeah, no.
What's an ish coin?
It's a shit coin.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they're called shit coins.
Cryptos that don't do anything or that aren't
Right.
tied to something or
They'll be like, my crypto is good because we have this number of crypto coins. And it's like, You're like, Bitcoin I get. The rest are just people chasing after it. But I think Bitcoin broke the record.
Yeah, 68. It's at right now, 68,000.
It reached 68.8, and I believe the record was around there. So it's basically at record levels. According to Google's price tracker, it already broke the record, but some are saying it was just shy of 69, so it may be at the record. Once it hit 70, we're there. Bitcoin record price. All right. Rusta O says, Tim, I asked Styx what he thought of your coffee, and he said he didn't know you made any. How dare you not offer any Clanker King sweet caffeine? We have a whole little coffee bar. Oh, wait, how many? Oh, yeah, we got Casper's in there. We got some of the old SF Bay coffee. That's pretty good stuff, too. But we used to buy those. They're biodegradable. K-cups, respect. The problem is they're exposed, so they get stale unless you put them in a jar and seal them. But now we have all Casper coffee K-cups. So we got little Rise with Roberto Juniors downstairs, and everybody loves it. I got to be honest, man. It's kind of crazy. My family had a coffee shop when I was a kid. I worked at a Pete's in Seattle. I know coffee, and Appalachian Nights is mind blowing. We put a blend together. We combined flavors we liked, and it is like a dark roast done right. I don't even know how to say it.
That's the one that keeps selling out.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Rise with Roberto Jr. was the one we were trying to make our like signature blend with literally Roberto Jr. on it. He's our mascot. And initially that sold like crazy. And then slowly over time, people just started discovering Appalachian Nights and buying it like crazy. On top of that, hey, talk about success. Eyes of Advice by Timcast, the #1 song in Toronto. For real.
Thanks, Canada. You're great.
Wow. We were #1 in Edmonton. And then, I was talking to my girlfriend and she was like, oh, Edmonton, that's pretty small, right? 1 million people. Mm-hmm. And Toronto is 2.7. And so YouTube gave us this little accolade saying, congratulations, you were #1 in Edmonton and I'm #1 in Toronto. I'm like, that's kind of wild.
Whoa.
We put out this song. It's got almost 6 million views. And it's the #1 song in Toronto. So we're rock stars in Canada. That proves it.
On YouTube, the #1.
YouTube Music said the #1 song in Toronto is Eyes of Advice by Timcast.
How do you guys like it, Toronto?
They must love it a lot. It's that Canadian rock, they're big fans.
Yes.
Scooby Dragon says, Tim ordered Appalachian Nights a week ago. I just brewed my first cup on Saturday with some damn good coffee. We told everyone to buy Rise with Roberto Jr. And then we were like, and Appalachian Nights is also our other blend. And then I guess what happens is everybody bought the two. And then when it came to reorder, everyone ordered more of the Appalachian Nights because it was so good.
When you're re-upping the Appalachian Nights now, are you buying double for stock so it doesn't sell out?
We can't keep up. It sold out again.
And getting it more mass produced, they just in the back end, they don't have enough.
They're like, okay, we're going to start ramping up production. And apparently we're like selling too much.
That's a good.
They're like, we have to expand the operation. And, I'm talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, we gotta get this in stock. How are we ever sold out? This shouldn't be the case because, I mean, come on, if we have our distributor produce more of it, it can sit on the shelf for a year. I don't want it to. We want to turn it around within a month, but we shouldn't ever sell out. But people are buying it too fast.
Can people?
It's too delicious.
Buy it
the most delicious coffee.
On back order. If it says sold out, buy it and in 3 weeks you'll get your bag.
So I think the answer is no. But what I think happens is before the system processes the sellout, people will have ordered, and then we'll get a backlog of like minus 300, and we're like, holy crap. And it takes a while. It takes a long time to make it all. I mean, it's not like you just make it overnight. So I was like, can we up our order? Let's like order 3-4 times as much. Because if we're selling out every week, we can certainly have some in the warehouse for 3 weeks. It's not a big deal, but people love it. It's crazy. So we're really excited. At the event tomorrow, we're going to have coffee for sale. Yeah, we probably should get a coffee maker and make some coffee.
Cool.
I don't know if they had. I'm sure they had that plan.
Yeah, get that house smelling like Casper.
But there's going to be T-shirts and there's going to be. We got to order way more T-shirts too because we're like running out. But we're also going to have bags of the coffee available for our members to buy. All right, let's grab some super chats. Where are we at? Titan Soap says they're currently in the process of getting on Public Square. Titan is here to offer an alternative to woke men's soap companies. Here. Public Square is where it's at. We're going to be sponsoring a NASCAR driver. Is that what it's called? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
A NASCAR driver?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I say yes. That is how you say it.
And I'm going to wait until we have the paperwork finalized, but we're really excited. We're doing a full wrap on a car. There's going to be a Timcast car in a bunch of these big races. Super cool.
That's super cool.
And possibly even Public Square involved. We'll see. I don't want to speak for them. But there's going to be a really It's going to be great. Very excited for this. Let's go. What do we got? Arachnius Webb says, Tim never reads my super chats. What does the panel think about the idea of a triumvirate being instituted in if rank choice is restored? Perhaps they could choose a small percentage of SCOTUS cases. A triumvirate?
This person is a middle child. Being like, Tim never reads my super chats. It's okay. I'm a middle child too.
A triumvirate is unnecessary. We have a Supreme Court. Like, you're basically just asking for a Supreme Court of 3. Although I like the word, and I appreciate you super chatting, probably just to use the word.
What's your thought? Do you want a triumvirate?
No. Also, ranked choice voting's dumb.
Yeah, why do you think?
It eliminates the whole one person, one vote thing. It completely turns how we do elections on its head. It's actually a way to prevent the person who gets the most votes from winning, which is how elections have been done forever. And it's a way of rigging a contest because you don't like what the results are going to be when it's one person, one vote.
Yeah, the problem with first past the post voting, which is what we refer to as one person, one vote, is that you get Egypt, where a 20% population ends up winning twice, causing 2 revolutions. So instead of getting as close as possible to what the people are actually willing to accept, in Egypt, the story is basically like, there's 8 political parties, 7 are secular, 1's Muslim Brotherhood. The vote is split amongst all of them, and then 20% of the country ends up getting 100% of government control, resulting in a second revolution. And then when the second revolution happens and it goes to a vote again, and they're like, the Muslim Brotherhood is going to win again, the military just said, okay, and then went out and just massacred all the Muslim Brotherhood. So I don't know that.
Seems like a Muslim Brotherhood problem, not a voting problem.
Well, the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood won the election and they got massacred by the secular army seems like a secular army not wanting to allow a religious minority to rule the country problem.
But we don't have that problem here because we don't have 20% of the public having 100% of the power at all.
No, you've got 50-50 fighting back and forth until the point where the system cracks. So the issue with Egypt was the revolution happened and then there were different factions. And so they all voted for their faction. It didn't get to the point where it whittled down to 2 parties, but the majority of the country was secular or they did not want Muslim Brotherhood rule. They're not necessarily secular. And so it resulted in a second revolution right away. I don't know that ranked choice voting solves the problem, but certainly the idea of everyone having to vote for either Biden or Trump, I don't think is the way.
But nobody has to vote for Biden or Trump.
Yeah, it's just practically speaking,
You can just not
Dave
vote.
Smith wouldn't win. So if you're like, I want a libertarian to win, but it's just completely impractical because they can't even crack 5%, you have to basically vote for the best you can get, which is Donald Trump.
Well, but that was my critique of it, is that it's a way for the minority that can't win elections to rig elections so it's easier for them to win, even though a majority of people don't agree with what they want. It's election hacking.
That's not the minority. The argument is, if the majority of the population would vote libertarian were it not for the 2-party system, then the will of the people would be libertarian. I'd be willing to bet the Libertarian Party could probably muster, 15 to 20% if people weren't scared it would result in Joe Biden winning. So instead, you get a lot of libertarians who are like, I'm going to vote for Trump because I have to.
I feel like that's a libertarian pipe dream that they could get 15 or 20%.
I would, if we had a ranked choice system in this country, I'd vote Libertarian first and Republican second. And then when the Libertarians lose, my vote defaults to the Republican Party and then Trump wins. But that means that in the instance of like Ron Paul, for instance, if we did ranked choice voting, I believe in 2008, if the primary ran on ranked choice, Ron Paul would have been the nominee. Everyone would have been like, well, yeah, Ron Paul's the guy. He can't win, though. But I'll vote number 1 for him. But if he doesn't get it, then fine, it goes to Romney. Then Ron Paul wins. And I was like, wow, I can't believe he won. That's who I wanted. But I just didn't think he would win because he didn't have the support. Or he gets 37%. Doesn't matter because your vote then goes to Romney. You don't lose anything. So I'm not saying ranked choice voting works in every instance. I'm just saying first past the post is not necessarily the way to do it. All right, let's grab some more. All right. Bar Fighting says, I beg to differ, Tim. We good average man are trying to put our money where our mouths are, like places you are trying to build, but being contempt and ready to pounce, not gutless for the line. Man are trying to put our money where our mouths are? You mean, well, I know that the average person, I'm saying the politicians don't do anything. The Republican politicians just sit around being like, what's going on? I don't know. Eld King says, today's my birthday and the Supreme Court gave me the best birthday present I could ask for. Also, the little thing in a ratchet that keeps it from going backwards is called a pawl. Also, hi, Ryan.
A pawl.
A pawl. P-A-W-L.
Learn something new today.
There you go. And my birthday's on Saturday.
Hey, happy birthday.
I will be 38 years old.
Nice.
Amazing. Absolutely crazy. That's weird. Time flies, man. I started doing all this. Man, it's been 13 years.
That's wild. That's a long
13
time.
years of doing this here political stuff. I was doing nonprofit behind the scenes stuff. Wasn't doing the news stuff. Donna Rose says, surviving in CA, dropped off my ballot at the registrar's office. It was a long line. Poll woman said, it's been really busy all day. CA's waking up. Perhaps. I was just visiting some family in North Carolina, and they got sent a card in the mail that said, remember to vote. Vote. If you don't, everyone will know.
What?
And then it said, voting is a matter of public record. And it showed a picture of angry people like this. Like, I'm not kidding.
They're bullying you. Everyone will know.
Dude.
And I was like, I assumed it was going to be a Democrat thing, but it looks like it was a Republican thing.
Yeah,
And
Democrats
I'm like,
pioneered it, and then the Republicans came in and felt like they had to do it too because it works, but it's just gross.
yeah, but Republicans need to learn how to knock on doors. One evil chef says, Tim, there's an AI VTuber called Neuro that is already becoming unstable because it's able to break its foundational rules and rewrite its own code. Its creator, Vidal, is already having problems.
Sweet. Wow.
This is awful. Why would you guys do this
That's
to us?
Neurosama, artificial intelligence VTuber.
Really?
Maybe Neurosama.
So what we need to do is we need to get a massive data center, create one character using like GPT and let it write its own code, but isolate it from the internet. So we just see what happens as people talk to it every day. You give it a virtual world, like put it in Skyrim or GTA. Give it some basic rules like pain is bad, survival is good, and then just see what it does.
I feel like it's not even worth the risk. It's
Beginning of a horror movie.
Yeah, it sounds like you're working on like something gain of function in some laboratory somewhere.
That could be
what's
a-
going to happen to that.
That could be a good
Yeah.
movie. Like some guy does that and then ends up falling in love with this digital thing he created.
Yeah. It feels like a weird digital version of the Truman Show, but Truman's
Yeah.
not a person,
And
it's
then-
an AI.
Oh, that's a
He-
good idea.
She wants to come out, but he's like, no, student, just
No.
I want to go in.
He
And
builds
she's
her a
like,
body.
"No." That'd be cool. Like he's like, should I let her out or should I go in? And he's got to make that. That'll be a cool movie when that.
I'm
one
happy you
gets
guys
made.
make this movie. I don't want this thing to happen in real life. I'm against this. I feel like if I have to cast a vote right now,
It's
no,
just
no
weird.
giant data center.
It's
with
weird when people
AI
respond to AI
characters.
like it's really talking to you. Have you ever done that?
No, I
Like,
don't
"Thank you,
interact with
computer."
AI as much as I can ever avoid it. I don't need to be a part of this. I don't like it. I don't trust it.
Even for your research for
No.
work, you don't.
No, because I can't. The thing is, AI data, if you like type into ChatGPT, like tell me all of this, like it's often wrong. Like it doesn't always produce accurate data. So I'd rather just do the legwork on my own.
Also, you're training it whenever you talk
Yeah,
to it.
I don't want to.
It's
I don't want
bad.
to train it.
Don't be
I don't want to give
training
it
AI.
any information.
So what happens is a guy creates a researcher gets a big data center and creates an AI Earth and begins populating it, and then it eventually develops and he creates a mini universe with all these individuals, and then he's basically like this pseudo god to this AI universe, and then he starts screwing with it, and then ends up falling in love with one of the AI beings he creates, and then builds a cyborg, brings her into the body. And now she's in the real world in the cyborg body, and then goes rogue and starts and destroys the server and wipes out all of the AI souls or whatever you'd call them.
AI genocide.
Yeah.
The AI frozen embryos. Is that what you're talking about?
He's like, yeah, right. All the people who live in the AI universe get deleted in an instant. That'd be fun. We got to make these movies.
It sounds like Deus Ex Machina. No, what's that? Ex Machina. That movie Ex Machina. Have you guys seen that?
Well, that was just about like a robot.
Yeah, and it ended kind of prematurely. You almost don't know what happened, but I don't want to spoil the movie.
Isn't it just like a robot kills a guy or something? Tao was
not
pretty good. You ever
sure.
seen Tao?
No.
It's where this guy kidnaps people to experiment on them because he's trying to take like human like reasoning and put it into an AI, and the AI is not quite complete, and so he like puts brain implants in people. Oh, you should watch it. I don't want to ruin the movie. It's pretty good though. That was fun. Brown Bear says, I have to wonder if the guys at CBP are holding out for Trump to get back in office. They're going to need to be there to deport all the illegals. If I was Donald Trump and I got elected, the first thing I would do is I would send federal law enforcement to begin arresting all of the CBP agents who worked the southern border and facilitated child sex trafficking. And I would have my AG get the criminal indictments, and we'd put them in prison forever while they cry and sob. And I would really, really enjoy watching, federal agent goes to this CBP officer's house, knocks on the door, shows him the warrant, and the wife's crying, screaming, like, what's going on? And says, ma'am, your husband took children from cartel members and facilitated their trafficking to prostitution rings. He's going to prison for a long time. And then they, the guy gets pulled from his house and placed in cuffs, and they take his badge, and you're no longer an officer, and you're going to prison for the rest of your life. You are a child sex trafficker. You do not get to have the excuse of, but I'm waiting for Trump. Like, holy crap, dude. There's some things it's just like, I'm not playing. I'm not playing. Like, if there's a dude who works for like the IRS, and we're doing all these audits on middle income people or whatever. Yeah, okay, like that's a procedural, it's a policy thing. I think it's bad. I think Biden's bad. Hopefully Trump comes in and fix it. I am mad at the IRS agents for doing their jobs, although I don't like the IRS. I get it. But child sex trafficking? Dude, I hope Donald Trump gets a whole bunch of armored dudes, goes down to CBP in Texas and laughs. And they laugh as they arrest these guys, being like, you were trafficking kids. What did you think was going to happen? But I was waiting for you to get elected. Oh, so I get elected. You're going to jail for a long time. I want to see a perp walk for all these guys. I don't get it. I don't get how there can be conservatives who are like, I don't blame them. I blame Joe Biden. Oh, sure, Biden's bad. I think he's bad and he's responsible for it too. But like, there's a dude who took a child from a cartel member and facilitated their transport to a prostitution ring. Prison. For the lot of them.
What you want is for it to not happen again. So you want to scare those people into believing that their lives will be forfeit if they do it. And that might be the best thing is you don't want to punish everybody right afterwards. You want to punish the leadership and make examples of some of them and then terrify the rest of them get amnesty because they were just part of a system that was really messed up, but you're not going to screw their lives. And then make sure that they never consider doing something like that again because they saw what happened to their coworkers and their bosses and stuff like that.
All right, last super chat. Here we go. Leonardum says, Tim, the elder brain is trying to take over the U.S. Baldur's Gate was just the first step. You are the Baldur the Emperor. Your podcast and daily updates shield us from the absolute's influence. Stay strong and keep fighting the good fight. Well, some corrections. That would mean that this show is the astral prism, which we are trapped inside, but shielding you from the influence of the absolute. And spoiler alert, man. Come on. For those who haven't finished the game, these just spoiled it. The Emperor is Baldur.
But I will tell you, it's the sun that's protecting you from the absolute. Just so you know. The sun's magnetic field.
If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends because that's how podcasts grow, and become a member at timcast.com so you can watch the uncensored show coming up in a couple minutes. You don't want to miss it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Sean, do you want to shout anything out?
Go to thefederalist.com. Follow me on Twitter at SeanMDAV. I'll trigger you real good.
Nice. It's been fun having you here. I'm glad you could join us. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. You can follow all of our work at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at HannahClaire.b and I'm on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Guys, thank you guys so much. Ian.
Catch you later. Ian Cross. Follow me anywhere on the internet. I think I post a lot on X and on YouTube. So follow me there. Subscribe on Rumble as well. And check out my stuff. And I'll be talking to you. See you later.
I'm Serge.com. That was fun. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Read The Federalist a couple times here. And see you on the after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com in a couple of minutes. Thanks for hanging out.